2024. And at this time, here is the Mayor President Pro Tem of East Baton Rouge Parish, Councilman Brandon Noel. Councilman?
Thank you, Dennis. Welcome, everybody, to the Metropolitan Council meeting this October 23rd, 2024. We're going to have the invocation this evening by Councilwoman Carolyn Coleman, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Dylan Young, a seventh grader at University High School.
And I say good afternoon to everyone. And so, yes, you heard it, Dylan Young. And Dylan is a seventh grader at University High, an all-around athlete who has done competitive gymnastics, track and field, a lover of art, and enjoys drawing and visiting museum. And she's also a part of the student council at her school. So, and Dylan will recite the pledge after the invocation. And so if we bow our heads, and Father, we thank you for this day, for this is the day that you've made, and we're going to rejoice in it. Ephesians 4:11 says that you're equipped to do the work of the ministry. Isaiah 9:6 says that, and the government shall rest upon his shoulders. Ephesians 4:1 says, walk worthy of the vocation in which we are called. So therefore, we should be equipped, walk worthy, and rest in the Almighty. We should in no way, no time take God's place, for he is the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end, omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. And yes, he has the whole world in his hands. So as we submit to the all-powerful, all-knowing, and everywhere, we submit our will to you, Almighty, as we forge ahead, making decisions consciously. And we ask that you protect us in every area of our life and show us what we don't know, as we lean not to our own understanding, but in all our ways acknowledge you, and you will direct our path for the people that we serve. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And so I want to make sure that I give Dylan this certificate here of recognition for leading the pledge here at the Metropolitan Council meeting on this October 23rd, and say to you that the best is yet to come. Let's take this nice picture. And yeah, these my people. I got my people with me.
All right, as we call the meeting to order, we'll have a roll call. Ashley, do we have a quorum?
We have a quorum.
We're going to have the adoption, approval of minutes, approval and adoption of the minutes of Metropolitan Council meeting of October 9th, 2024, the Metropolitan Council zoning meeting of October 16th, 2024 by the Council Administrator Treasurer. We have a motion. I have a motion by Councilwoman Amorosa, second by Councilman Hudson. Any opposed? Introductions. Ashley, please read the introductions.
Section 2.12, Introductions. Number 2, amending the preliminary current expense budget and capital budget of the City of Baton Rouge and Parish of East Baton Rouge for the year 2025, submitted by the Mayor President, and adopting the final current expense budget and capital budget of the City of Baton Rouge and Parish of East Baton Rouge for the year 2025 by the Mayor President. Number 3, amending the annual operating budget so as to reallocate $2,554,748.15 from the proceeds from the local fiscal recovery funds through the American Rescue Plan Act to provide funding for projects and initiatives as follows: $708,158.65 for stormwater, $690,232.68 for cybersecurity, $225,000 towards the Boys and Girls Inspiration Center, $290,000 for building improvements, $130,000 for economic development and tourism events, $100,426.82 to support the public defender, $100,000 for homelessness cleanup, $100,000 towards updating the Plan BR3, $140,000 for community programs, $45,930 for downtown signage, and $25,000 for the District Attorney Witness Assistance Program by the Mayor President. Number 4, condemnation introductions. Caleb Nixon, 728 Avocet Street, Council District 2, Banks. Number 5, the estate of Hollis Jenkins and the estate of Mabel Baptiste Jenkins, 715 Avocet Street, Council District 2, Banks. Number 6, the estate of George Sanford and the estate of Patricia Sanford, 9930 Avenue C, Council District 2, Banks. Number 7, Onyx Square LLC, 1350 Sora Street, Council District 2, Banks. Number 8, Carrie Bailey Johnson, 6460 Vineyard Drive, Council District 5, Hearst. Number 9, Sidney Shorter et al., 1329 North Acadian Thruway West, Council District 7, Darazan. Number 10, Loyetta Collins Living Trust, 2769 Cedar Avenue, Council District 10, Coleman. Number 11, Wilma Lee Oliver, 207 Evergreen Drive, Council District 10, Coleman. Number 12, RW Investment Properties, LLC, 3336 Aliquippa Street, Council District 10, Coleman. Adjudicated property introductions. Number 13, Lot 11, Subdivision Fairlane, Council District 5, Hearst. Number 14, Lot B2, Subdivision Lizzie Barnes Tract, Council District 2, Banks. Number 15, Lot 5, Square 5, Subdivision North Scotland, Council District 2, Banks. Number 16, Lot 2, Square 6, Subdivision Zachary Heights, Council District 1, Knoll. Number 17, Lot 48, Subdivision Donwood, Council District 4, Moak. Number 18, Lot Northeast Corner of Blunt and Avenue E, Subdivision Highland Farms, Council District 2, Banks. Number 19, Lot U and V, Square 49, Subdivision University Place, Council District 2, Banks. Number 20, Lot 5, Square 16, Subdivision Prosperity, Council District 10, Coleman. Number 21, Lot 16 Plus, Subdivision Harding Heights, Council District 2, Banks. Number 22, Lot 82A, Subdivision Harding Heights, Council District 2, Banks. Number 23, Lot 83A and 84A, Subdivision Harding Heights, Council District 2, Banks. Number 24, Lot 347, Subdivision Belfair Homes, Council District 7, Darazan. Number 25, Lot east of 51, Subdivision Lusheg, Metro Council District 1, Knoll. Number 26, Lot 167, 169, and 171, Subdivision Colonial Hill, Council District 7, Darazan. Number 28, Lot D1A1, Subdivision LR Scott Tract, Council District 1, Knoll. Number 28, Lot 255, Subdivision Crystal Place, Council District 4, Moak. Number 29, Lot 3, Square F, Subdivision Crawford Addition, Council District 7, Darazan. Number 30, Lot 9, Part, Square 20, Subdivision North Baton Rouge, Council District 2, Banks. Number 31, Lot 21 and 22, Square 13, Subdivision Banks, Council District 10, Coleman. Number 32, Lot 31A, Square 15, Subdivision Banks, Council District 10, Coleman. Number 33, Lot 31A, Square 15, Subdivision Banks, Council District 10, Coleman. All items that require reading have been read, and a motion to delete items 44 and 52 and introduce all other items is in order.
So moved by Councilwoman Coleman, second by Councilwoman Amorosa. Any opposition? Motion carries. We're going to go to our separate sheet for condemnations. All right, we have recommendations to proceed with items 69, 71, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 89, 90, and 91. Giving 90 days on item 70, 72, and 88, and delete item 87. Is anyone here wishing to speak on any of these items? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Do we have any? Councilwoman Coleman?
Yes, 60 days on 74, 60 days on 75.
Hang on. Wait, we have 60 days. So you want to go to December 11th?
That's good.
Okay.
All right.
Give me the numbers again. I'm sorry. 74.
Okay. 74, 75. All right, one more. And 89. 89, 60 days, and 90 days for number 91. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay.
You did it, Jay.
We already have 72. $73, 30 days. Okay. Anybody else?
60 days for 69, please.
60 days.
I need 30 days for 76, please.
76. Anybody else? Okay. We are going to proceed with items 71, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 85, 86, and 90. 30 days for item 73, 76, 83, 84. 60 days, item 69, 74, 75, 89. 90 days for item 70, 72, 88, and 91, and delete item 87. Do we have a motion? Motion by Councilman Dunn Jr., second by Councilwoman Amorosa. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item 92, supplemental sales tax bond resolution, amending and supplementing general sales tax bond resolution number 54430 by providing for the issuance and sale of MOVE EBR sales tax revenue bonds, Series 2024 of the Baton Rouge, of the Parish of East Baton Rouge Capital Improvements District, prescribing the form, fixing the details, and providing for the payment of the principal of and interest on such bonds, and for the rights of the registered owners thereof, and providing for the matters related thereto by the bond council. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Motion by Councilwoman Rocca. We have a second. Second by Councilwoman Coleman. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 93, amending the 2024 capital budget so as to appropriate 2024 road and street refunding bonds in an amount not to exceed $200 million in bond premiums, estimated at $23,200,000 for the MOVE BR program, and provide for the cost of issuance by the Transportation and Drainage Director and the Finance Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. We have a motion. Motion by Councilman Goday, second by Councilwoman Rocca. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 94, rescheduling the January 22, 2025 regular Metropolitan Council meeting to January 29th, 2025 at 4 p.m. by Councilwoman Lori Adams. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, go to council. Motion by Councilwoman Adams, second by Councilman Dunn Jr. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to take 95 through 98 together, authorizing the mayor, president, or her designee on behalf of the Baton Rouge Police Department to accept a grant award in the amount of $91,357 titled Project Safe Neighborhood 2021 by the police chief, authorizing mayor, president, or her designee on behalf of the Baton Rouge Police Department to accept a grant award in the amount of $91,149 titled Project Safe Neighborhood 2022 by police chief, authorizing the mayor, president, or her designee on behalf of the Baton Rouge Police Department to accept a grant award in the amount of $95,411 titled Project Safe Neighborhood 2023 by the police chief, authorizing the mayor, president, or her designee on behalf of the Baton Rouge Police Department to accept a grant award in the amount of $90,172 titled Project Safe Neighborhood 2024 by the police chief. Do we have anyone here wishing to speak on these items? Seeing none, go to council. We have a motion. Motion by Councilwoman Coleman, second by Councilman Hudson. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item 99, authorizing Mayor President on behalf of the Downtown Development District to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Visit Baton Rouge to accept $100,000 for the planning, construction, and installation of specialty colored lighting under I-110 in the downtown area by Downtown Development District Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Please state your name for the record.
Penny Mae Landry, West Contour Drive. I am in opposition to any money being spent for colored specialty lighting. If it were for security measures, I would be in favor. However, I'm in opposition to the item as stated. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Carwile, 1855 Old Carriage Lane, and I'm in favor of this. I sat on the mayor's safety, I don't remember what it was called, but my team was environmental design. And one of the things that we saw in other cities is that when they do lighting, it helps crime, eliminate crime. And in other cities, they have cool, it's not just let's put up some lights, but there are cool artistic lighting things, and it's cool and it's neat, and it makes it look like we care and we're neat and interesting. And I think if we've got to spend money on lighting, why not make it cool, interesting lighting, especially right by downtown? So I'm all for it. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this?
Council members, you should have received 3 email comments on this item, 2 in support, 1 in opposition.
All right. We have a motion by Councilwoman Rocca, second by Councilwoman Coleman. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 100, amending the 2024 current expense budget for the Office of the Parish Attorney so as to appropriate $15,000 from fund balance unassigned to the legal services account for payment of the legal expenses incurred by the Registrar of Voters related to the voting assignment for annexed property currently in litigation as required by Louisiana Revised Statutes 1564 by the Parish Attorney. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. We have a motion by Councilman Dunn Jr., second by Councilwoman Darazan. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 101, rescinding and directing the clerk of court to cancel the notice to attend recorded on May 16, 2024, and the decision and order recorded on June 18, 2024, in the matter of City of Baton Rouge versus Mary Lee Washington, 4108 Provost Street. Reason for rescission, the property is being renovated by Councilwoman Darazan. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Do we have a motion? Motion by Councilwoman Darazan, second by Councilwoman Coleman. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 102, authorizing Mayor President to execute an agreement between the City of Baton Rouge, Parish of East Baton Rouge, on behalf of the Office of Community Development and Our Lady of the Lake St. Anthony's Home for an amount not to exceed $91,000 by the Community Development Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. We have a motion. Motion by Councilman Goday, second by Councilman Dunn Jr. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 103, authorizing Mayor President to accept a grant award in the amount of $152,340.30 and execute all documents in connection therewith under the State Homeland Security Program by the Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. We have a motion by Councilwoman Adams, second by Councilman Goday. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 104, authorizing Mayor President to accept a grant award in the amount of $75,750.15 in all and execute all documents in connection therewith under the Emergency Management Performance Grant by the Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. We have a motion by Councilwoman Adams, second by Councilman Hurst. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 105, authorizing Mayor President to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Baton Rouge Sponsoring Committee, Together Baton Rouge, in the amount of $500,000 to participate in a pilot solar energy program that will provide partial funding needed for 3 community lighthouses to assist the citizens of East Baton Rouge Parish during widespread power outages by the Mayor President and Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item?
Penny Mae Landry, West Contour Drive. I am opposed to this item.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Stephanie LaPrairie. I work for the IBW here in Baton Rouge, Local 995. we are in support of this. Not only does it help the communities in those times of need, but it also builds the community, gets careers into the hands of those who don't have a career. We have an apprenticeship program that they can go through where they can learn how this career can help build a future for them.
Thank you.
Jennifer Carwell, you're going to see me tonight. Yay, I'm here. So when I moved to Baton Rouge in 1992, I moved here right before Hurricane Andrew. Didn't know anything about hurricanes and was caught unawares. But it was very exciting because my neighbors all were like, we all lost power. So the person who had a grill, we all brought out our meat from the freezer and we grilled, and we were supportive of each other and helped people get through it. Hurricane Gustav came along. That was terrible. It was much worse. People were out of power for a long period of time, and I feel like after that, in my neighborhood, everybody's got their own generator. So when we have problems now, nobody's out helping each other in my neighborhood, okay? Because we're very I got mine, you get yours, whatever. A few years ago when Laura or Ida or whichever one came through that messed up New Orleans, the community said, you know what, we need to do something about this, and came up with this idea about these the lighthouse thing with the solar panels. And it's a great idea to have people in the community. These are 3 pilot spots, but it'd be wonderful if eventually we've got this lighthouse type situation with solar panels at all the Brecs or the libraries or wherever, so that people, when you're in a pickle, because we're going to be in another pickle, maybe not next year, maybe in 5 years, but weather's not getting better. And I think this is a great way to start building this program, so when we have a pickle, we're ready for it. Thank you.
My name is Robin Mulder, 9265 Bermuda Avenue. I reside in District 11, Councilwoman Adams. I would hope after this program is done that you can work to get one of these lighthouses for our district. I want to speak quickly. I'm an engineer. This is a pilot program, but that's from administrative. Technologically, this is off-the-shelf technology. There is nothing unknown or unproven. One of the 3 sites is being put in an IBEW training facility. Do you think that the electrical workers would be installing something they didn't think would work? This is very simple, off-the-shelf technology. It is not a science project.
Edgar Cage, 4302 Melbourne Street in Baker, Louisiana. This is an opportunity for Baton Rouge to sort of catch up with what has been done in New Orleans. There are 14 operating lighthouses in New Orleans now. 9 of them came online after this last storm that New Orleans had to provide those services to the neighborhoods. But it's not just about the lighthouse, it's about engaging the community also. The lighthouses will have a turf. They will have an area that they will be responsible for to engage those citizens before a storm or an outage comes, so they know where the most vulnerable are. They know where the needs that they have to engage somebody within the first 24 hours, because they may have a medical device that requires the power. We will know that, and we will go out to those people to assess their needs within 24 hours of a power outage, because the neighbors are you truly first responders. It's important we kind of do this, because this is some federal funds that have been allocated for this purpose. And what the money we're asking you to put up is just a match for those federal funds. If we don't do it, somebody else in this district, congressional district, will get it done. So I would love to see Baton Rouge get this money that's already been allocated. And as been stated before, this is just the start, the pilot. We plan to have lighthouses, our vision, lighthouses into every neighborhood in our parish. And there are other funds that are coming down the pipeline from the federal government, and they're sort of looking at how local governments or local areas respond to programs like this. So we could be in line for bigger and better things. But right now, we want to focus on the lighthouse. We can't get the whole parish if you don't get this first 3. So thank you.
We have 9 others in favor but not wishing to speak. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Not, we'll go to council. Councilman Moak.
Real quickly, council members, you should have received 2 email comments, 1 in support, 1 in opposition of item 105.
Is there a particular contact for the organization or who can speak on this? And quickly, can you tell me a little bit about the selection that you made and why these locations?
Yes, these are mostly our member institutions that we started with. We're a broad-based organization, so we have other churches and organizations that are members of Together Baton Rouge. So we started with our members. So St. Mark UMC is a member of Together Baton Rouge. Immaculate Conception is a member of Together Baton Rouge, and the IBEW training facility is a member of Baton Rouge. And they're also in underserved areas. So we put priority towards the underserved areas, Scotlandville, Glen Oaks, and then the IBEW training facility just increases their capacity for their apprenticeship program and to be able to be like a distribution hub during the time of.
Okay, where did the community centers, where did those fall under selection, or were they considered, or is this mainly a church program? I see McKinley Alumni Center also, but were the community centers that are already in place to be considered to be upgraded and worked with?
I believe the McKinley Alumni Center was the one community center we had in the pilot program. We're still in conversation about making that a lighthouse as well. But I will be, I would love to sit down with you all and discuss your districts and understand, what would be the best places to put lighthouses in the future in your districts as well.
Okay, I remember speaking about this months ago. I think when we first started thinking about it, and y'all came before us and were looking at places and everything. And I told several people in my district, and there were several churches that kept asking me, and I told them I'd get them the information when I found something out, and I've given them this. But that's why I guess with the parish already having so many community centers and stuff like that. I'd love to see about making them, resilient along with these. I know this is a pilot program, and I know there's others that could come online, but we have areas in the parish that are not covered by a community center either. Mm-hmm. And I think this has the opportunity to be a great program. How much, as far as what are we getting in federal dollars with this $500,000 matching to do this? Yeah,
so it's a 1-to-1 match.
Okay.
So we in 2023 we got $3.8 million from the Congressman Carter's administration to fund lighthouses in his district. So part of that allocation will go to this funding. So we have the Congressman's allocation, then we have some DOE funding that's going towards this. How much was that again? The Congressman was $3.8 million altogether.
Okay,
I don't have the exact figures of what's going to this particular project, but it's mixed between the Congressman's allocation and Department of Energy funding that we got through Equity for Social Justice, Equity for E4SE.
Okay, so out of those millions, 500,000. You said it's a 1-for-1 match. 500,000 is being used in East Baton Rouge Parish, and we're doing the $500,000 to match that.
Correct.
So $1 million. Correct. We're going to do 6 locations.
No, 3. 3 for the pilot.
Okay.
And that's the IBEW training facility, St. Mark UMC, and Immaculate Conception Catholic Church.
Okay. All right. Okay. As far as the emergency response centers and everything, give me a typical what's going to be put at these locations. So the whole place is outfitted with solar.
Absolutely.
And battery panels to run, because we know solar usually just feeds into the grid.
Right.
But this will be solar and battery powered for fully self-sustainable. And how long is it expected for these to self-sustain? I know the next day when the sun comes up, it's going to charge the batteries and everything. But what are we looking at as far as standing up some of these locations? Is it pretty much as long as we can get supplies to it? Are they pre-stocked with supplies?
So we're in partnership with MOSEP, and we're working out how that partnership works. And what this is supposed to be a network. So we're in partnership with our sister organization, New Orleans and Shreveport and other places in the state, and then with our membership with our organizations here locally in Baton Rouge. We will help to supply these sites with food, water.
Okay, and what I'm asking is, and I don't want my second time, the initial response of a hurricane or a location, what is the initial self-sustaining time as far as stock of supplies and stuff before other people can or cannot get to you?
I got you. So say when the hurricane is in the Gulf or the Caribbean, when we know that a hurricane is imminent, we will start, and this was actually tried out after Francine in New Orleans. So when the hurricane was 2 or 3 days out, when Francine was 2 or 3 days out, we started planning between the different lighthouses. Okay, who's going to get the water, food?
Okay, what I guess, let me clarify, and I apologize, my time's out. A hurricane comes in, how long are you self-sustainable when the storm hits?
Are you asking me how long will the battery last to be able to stand?
No, how long are you there with supplies? You need water, food, I'm talking about the supplies to self-sustain in an emergency. How long are you initially stocked to operate for until more supplies can get to you?
I don't think I'm understanding the question. How long will the supplies last?
Yeah, like in our emergency operation centers, if no one can get to us, we have a week's worth of supplies.
I got you.
Until people can get to us in our emergency operation center, we know about how many people will be there and how many supplies will come to us, and how long we need to self-operate until supplies can get to us. Is there a time that you plan on being self-sufficient with those people from the community at your location to be able to operate before supplies can get to you?
I think that's the part we need to figure out. There's the disaster response side of it that I think we need to figure out how. I can't give you exact days, how many days will be stopped prior to.
Okay, I got to cut there because thank you. No, thank you. I understand. I wanted to end my time in case I wanted to ask questions later, but we'll get back to it. Thank you.
All right. You want to add? Yeah.
I did. I asked not to use.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that.
Talking. I didn't get to think. He kept talking.
Councilwoman Banks.
Yes.
I was just pulling the Shauna.
Thank you. Okay, so I think you all, and I did talk to Edgar regarding what came back from an energy expert as it relates to this. And I haven't read it fully, but one thing that stands out, that at some point there is going to be a need to replace a battery. Now, on here, I'm not sure, I see something about 7 years and something 30 to 40 years. Which one, or is it neither of those? What is the lifespan of a battery for a lighthouse?
So, as I understand it, the battery starts to decay by a certain amount after maybe 15 or 20 years.
Okay.
But for 20 years, which is the lifespan of a battery, we have a maintenance and service contract with our partners, Solar Alternatives, to do regular maintenance and troubleshooting and kind of proactive maintenance over the lifetime.
Okay. Two things. Is that an insurance that you pay, or is that automatic, inclusive of the purchase?
It's inclusive.
Okay.
Well, we have insurance as well on the systems, but the maintenance contract is with the.
Who's paying for the insurance?
So we have each lighthouse will pay a portion of their energy savings. So during regular times when we're connected to the grid, the solar panels create a savings, right? Utility savings. So say we'll take 10 or 20% of that yearly savings and put it to the service contracts to keep the
but
systems
was that
maintenance.
paid in totality?
No, it's paid by yearly or monthly, however the institution wants to see.
Okay, this is so complicated to me. What about how much does it cost to replace a battery? Because I know even with insurance, I still might have to buy a new refrigerator. There's going to be a deductible. And
I don't have the information how much it costs to replace a battery, but I can get that to you.
Okay. Now the other thing is, I think so. One of the questions that my colleagues asked. So after the flood, the city community centers have generators, so that we have these huge generations. for most of the city buildings. And where is the lighthouse in District 2, Edward?
That's Immaculate Conception.
Okay, at the church. Okay. That's interesting.
First one.
Yeah. So since it's at Immaculate Conception, right back to those initial questions. So the church is going to pay for
So
the
we have a
insurance?
collective, for all our systems, we have a service contract that covers all the systems. So think of this as a network. And the more systems we add to the network, the bigger the network gets. So as a network, we have a service contract, a maintenance contract that covers all the lighthouses in the network.
Okay.
So our churches pay a percentage of their savings. So we want the church to have a net benefit as far as, energy savings. So they'll pay a percentage of their savings to that service contract to make sure the system stay maintenance.
So this is a real life situation that because of what the 2016 flood, the George A. Newman Community Center opened up as a shelter before anybody knew there was a flood. But one of the things that we learned after about a week, once the state realized there was a flood, they had a plan, and their plan is to use whatever Red Cross facilities that they had approved and which ones that were on their list. In my community, it was the Southern University Activity Center. So there were people who did not, we spoiled them in my center, but they had to move. They weren't given a choice because that is the way the state, for one, I guess that's part of the FEMA deal and getting reimbursements. But so I'm not sure how well thought out this is, because they're going to trump lighthouses because they cannot, because that's not their model. And so I'm concerned, and also if I know that where this is a lighthouse, yes, but if I have kids and I know that at the state they're going to have a group come in that has a playroom and people to help the kids with that, all of that's going to go away. So my concern is not that this isn't a good idea necessarily, but I think having lived this life, there's going to be no respect to these lighthouses in the end of a real deal. And also, they're about to build a mega shelter. There's only one mega shelter, and there's a mega shelter that is going to be built at Southern University at the Ag Center. Again,
well, look,
I'm just laying it all out, not in a way that I'm just playing not devil's advocate, angel advocate, to let you know that, yeah, this all sounds really, really wonderful in a room of Together Baton Rouge. But in the real federal sense, and I understand about the money might go away, but I hate that we go this far based on an application that we shouldn't have applied for until we had the money, until we knew we had the money. So that part doesn't move me. And I'm just saying that I'm not sure this is going to work the way you think it is.
Well, it's been tested in New Orleans, and I understand that there are shelters, other shelters in the city, but people always fall through the cracks.
And let me just say this,
this is to be able to
New
get to people
Orleans
that
is not
can't get.
Baton Rouge.
I hear that. I hear you.
And New Orleans may not have the facilities. I mean, we know that they're never going back to the Superdome. I don't care what happened.
And
that might be what they had to do. And they have much larger buildings than we have. I'm just saying, I know a lot of good ideas may come, but that's not enough for us to do this. And why did you apply for it if you didn't already know you had to match?
This is for statewide. So we got this from Congressman Carter statewide. We presented it to him. He loved the idea, so he put the money up.
But I know, but why didn't you all already have your match if you knew a condition of it was a match? That's all I'm asking.
I mean, we're getting the match. That's why we're in front of y'all.
I thought we had to prove it.
We're building it. And look, people fall through the cracks. And any time there's shelters, I know there's other shelters in Baton Rouge, but people fall through the cracks. After the flood, not everybody was able to make it to the shelters. People are on.
I'm telling you, they bust them out. I'm saying when they made it to smaller areas, the city came in and busted them out of all the smaller shelters. So I'm not talking about people falling through the cracks. I'm talking about the way the management, the operation works from the federal and the state. After a while, I don't care how wonderful this is, that's going to trump everything because they're talking about reimbursing. And they have more money than we have. So that's all I'm saying. You know, I'm not trying to dash water on it, but this is the life I live. And I think I have a fiduciary responsibility to tell you the real. And if you, I mean, everybody approve it, hallelujah. But I just want you to know.
Councilman Hurst.
Whoa.
Hey, I might call you back. I'm going to call Clay Reeves up to the mic, please. Thank you. So, Clay, we just had a sidebar. Can you explain to the council what you just explained to me about this particular item?
Yeah, so first, I'm in 100% support of this, this project. So we look at all hazards. So this is not intended to be a shelter. This is just to enhance our ability as a parish to take care of our vulnerable citizens. So this money that we're talking about has already been appropriated and approved by this body. This is just for the cooperative endeavor agreement.
So essentially, we've already approved this item, y'all.
Correct.
This is just for CEA that's going before to make sure that we can take the next appropriate steps and have an agreement in place.
Correct.
But the other part, too, when I talked to Mr. Cage earlier, this is not about necessarily a shelter. This is about somebody who may need to charge the oxygen machine up, that doesn't need to go to a Southern University, or somebody within walking distance that doesn't have a car that wants air conditioning for a few hours throughout the day to go before they go back to their home. This is not necessarily for somebody who needs shelter. It's for somebody who wants to access electricity. And I do understand it's no different than anybody who has solar panels at their home. If you feed back into the grid, the electricity company can write you a check. So when we start talking about how the incidental costs will be paid for, it made 110% sense to me that if I'm feeding back into the grid, which means that's going into other properties, saving Entergy or Demco money, depending on where it is, they writing their check back. I use those monies to then fund the maintenance and insurance associated with this. So it's not an additional cost. It's security measures built in there to protect us from anything that will come forward. So, Clay, thank you so much. You answered it, and I hope my colleagues support it to move forward.
Councilman Dunn Jr.
Edgar, could you come up? And as you come, I want to also bring clarity. As I understand it, these dollars was already approved last year and actually was used as a part of the application to go get the federal dollars. So the match was secured prior to making the application, or presenting the application. Also, as Darrell mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding of this lighthouse is to provide the alternative energy in solar for the facility. I know Councilman Moak was asking about supplies and all of that stuff. These facilities may or may not have supplies or may not be a shelter. What they're trying to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, is just make sure they have power to do whatever, whether that's charging a respirator, charging a computer, or operating a shelter, or just having that power. So the question about, how long would you have water, food, things of that nature, that would be a question for the McKinley Alumni Center, Renew, St. Mary, and all the other potential sites. Am I right in that?
You're right. They are resilience hubs, not shelters. Resilience hubs to provide that power, like you said, when power goes out on the grid. And also, we talked about how long something will be. There are controls to actually monitor and to check where the power is used and for how long. And even when the sun is not shining, the batteries are still being charged, not to the same level as when the sun shines, but they're still being charged.
All right, thank you. And just a point of clarity, Edgar, and I know y'all been working on this for a long time, and the project has evolved and changed. You mentioned at the podium 3 pilots. The supporting document we have says 6. So if you can just clarify that is 3, or is that a phase in, and what 3 is? Because we got 6 listed here, but you mentioned it's going to start with 3. Can you tell me those 3?
Yeah, the 3 pilot locations we have, as Abel mentioned, is Immaculate Conception Catholic Church, St. Mark's United Methodist Church, and the IBEW training facility. Now, we did the 6. We may have been very, very ambitious or aspirational too. Hopefully we could have 6, but realistically, we got the funding for 3. So that's where we landed on the 3.
Gotcha. One more question. Again, as you guys have made adjustments and change, can you get us an updated document after this to kind of show the overall support and funding? Like this document we have has the 3.8 from Congressman Carter. It has City of New Orleans $2 million. It has the technical support from the Department of Energy. East Baton Rouge Parish is contributing $500,000, but that's not listed here. And I know this is throughout the whole congressional district, but if you can get us an updated document to show the entire project, and also a document to show the support and funding just in East Baton Rouge Parish, so because people are going to ask us questions,
Gotcha.
And we want to be accurate in what we telling and the information that we putting out. Right now, we're getting some conflicted information because of the changes and evolving of the scope. So if you can get us some updated document that we can put out that help us be consistent with what's actually being done, that'd be helpful.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Councilman Goday.
Gentlemen, thank y'all. If you'll stay up for just one more minute, you just referenced the 3 that are the pilot. What is the quickest path to 4, 5, and 6? And my interest being 4 or 5 or 6, hopefully 4 will be in the Gardere community. Yeah, one of the 6, but it's not one of the 3. Yeah, And so what's the quickest path to get to?
Kind of like the process we're going through tonight is the local funding, the matches.
Another $500,000.
The match, yeah, for another 3 is what we would need.
Is the 2.8 carrying it? Is the 2.8 exhausted? Do you need additional federal dollars in addition to a local match?
Yes, and we're continuing to raise federal dollars.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's what I need. Thank y'all very much.
Okay.
Edgar, you had a couple of comments that we moved on to the next speaker. Do you have anything further to add? I've got a little more time if you need to.
No, I'm good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shauna, you already went into your second bank, but I'm going to have a question for you on my time, so just hang tight.
Thank you. I just wanted to know.
Hang on.
Oh.
Councilman Hudson.
Oh.
Sean, I have a question for you.
Oh, no.
What did you want to say?
I just want to say I got a better understanding in just between their 2 comments, and it's a great idea, and I know you Together Baton Rouge is mostly a volunteer, but I just want to tell you, Edgar, you did not do a good job of presenting this to me, but thank you, and I do support the item.
Oh, now I got a question for Edgar. I'm just joking.
Do I have the time, Ron?
Come on.
You're not going to respond to me, are you?
Yes. You put it out there, you open the door, and I'm going to try to close it. No, you're absolutely right, because we had not had an opportunity to sit down and discuss. You sent me an email with something where somebody got some information from I don't know where, and I got a response to, I know from where, but where they got the factual data from, I don't know, because there was sometimes very little in there. But I gave you what I
So
could.
the information you gave me today was great. I was just talking about overall, like in the last 30 days or whatever. That was all.
We hadn't had an
Not this.
opportunity to talk. That's
I have
why.
Yeah,
I have
that
no
was
further
all.
questions for
okay.
either of you.
Okay.
I have no further questions for either of you. Thank you. Clay, if you would, just for a second. So my main point of contention or concern with this item was making sure that we're covered as far as long-term obligations. As I understood the Cooperative Endeavor Agreement, it's a 5-year agreement, and we have 2 major obligations. One, providing this local match, and then also your office, I think, will be offering some training. But moving forward, if we're talking about replacement of batteries or refurbishment of solar panels and that kind of thing, we're not on the hook for those things long-term, correct?
No.
Okay. That's all. That's the main question I had. The only other thing that I'll add, and this is just a message, I guess, to Together Baton Rouge, is I understand to first look into your own network for placements. I would just encourage you that there may be other really good non-member spots for some of these to take place. And so I don't think that membership in Together Baton Rouge should be a litmus test for who gets placement and that kind of thing. And if you want to respond to that, I'm certainly glad to let you.
I just want to say I 100% agree with you. And I would really want to get with y'all and let me know who in y'all's community, who in y'all's district would really do a great knockout job of providing resilience hubs for communities. So yes, if y'all have anybody any institution that you want to present and propose, I'm all ears, please.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Councilman Dunn Jr.
Edgar, quick question. Both of y'all can come if you want. I just want to get an understanding of your conversation and our agreements with some of these host sites, or what do we call them, pilot sites, and any expectations from them financially, maintenance, anything like that?
So they have two main. Let me get a little room here, Edgar. They have two main obligations. One is the financial obligation is pretty much a net zero cost to them. It's really going to be a net benefit. They'll pay towards the maintenance service contract that I mentioned that keeps the panels and the battery serviced out of their utility savings, right? So if they save, I don't know, $1,000 a year on utility savings, then they may contribute $200, and that's just an easy math figure to the maintenance. And then the other one is to build a team of volunteers within their institution that will go out, canvass the neighborhood, understand the needs, and be there to man the lighthouse.
So is you guys' evaluation or estimation that there will be a definitely net savings for them?
Absolutely.
Is there something in the agreement that they signed that guarantees that it won't be an expenditure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a cash flow in every agreement that they sign that shows their savings, how much of that will be part of it, and then what the net value will be.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Councilwoman Rocca.
I just want to piggyback on something that Councilman Gode said. The Gardier area, it shares basically a line with District 12. So if you are looking in that area, I'd strongly encourage you to explore that area. District 12 fully supports that, as we are very, very close neighbors and would both benefit from that facility. And I'm sorry for this for everyone, but Aaron, did you have something more you wanted to share of value?
I want to make sure it was on. I want to make sure that the public understands. Clay, can you come up for a second? I want to make sure the public understands. I know we discussed whether these are shelters or not shelters, but someone who has not only worked with Clay, but worked in emergency operations, that has worked different locations and everything during storms, people get an impression or a thought that these become certain things, and they have an expectation of when they get there. And what I just like is just some clarity, not only just to me, but to the public. So through the MOSEP or through the emergency operations, when these things fire up, do they become on a list of monitored things? Do they get a station at MOSEP for someone to report? I.e., our Emergency Operations Center, St. George, Baker, Zachary, we all have locations that our local area communicates with MOSEP and a representative to directly communicate with you about what's going on and what's needed in that area. If people start congregating at these places, are we going to have direct communication with them, or do they stay on the radar through East Baton Rouge Parish? And this is only 3 right now, and as we fire all these up, and I understand that they're not just going to be used in full-blown emergency situations. We might have power outages and things like that, and I know that's not as much of an emergency. But people get an expectation that when these things are here, and we've paid for them to be supposedly equipped, or what they think should be equipped, that they can go to, are they on the radar for MOSEP to keep an eye on and watch during a situation like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's the reason why the training we spoke about. MOSEP will oversee the training to provide either FEMA or whatever agency that would help them to make sure that they understand their capabilities first.
Okay.
And we don't set them up for failure. And the second piece is we'll keep in constant communication, because if they exhaust their resources at one of these centers, then I would come in as MOSEP and set up another
Okay,
center near.
and that takes me back to, and volunteering is great and wonderful. And we've been through this before. We've tried to fire up quick emergency centers for people to go to. The volunteer part comes in. So these are known as points for people to go to, possibly in an emergency or something like that. Is there, if a staff or volunteers or the organization can't get someone to it, does MOSEP then send someone over there to bring it online?
So that's what we've spoke about. So they don't have the agreements with the from Together Baton Rouge with the entity that where they want to place these at yet, but that will be part of it.
Okay, great.
We would be able to send either volunteers from our CERT team or have organizations that could help them support that.
Okay, great. Like I said, when I go to explain this, and I've talked to several churches when we first did this before, and the funding, and we had this discussion and everything. I've got a lot that are interested, that will put their time and energy and effort, and I think it's great as far as selecting churches, because they usually are the ones that will first open in a local area to get these things done. So I just want to make sure that when they do become allocated points, that they do fall under, and they will be fired up correctly, and they will be watched by East Baton Rouge Parish, which people, I think, will think that they are a part of our emergency operations directly, and they will have an expectation. And that's why I was asking about will they be stocked for X amount of time, just in case, maybe for 2 or 3 days for 30, 40 people? Will it be a week for 10 people? You know, that's the reason I was asking those questions and how they fell under emergency operations. And I appreciate the fact that we're not classifying them as shelters, but they will be points of emergency for people to head to that they might not could get back to their place or whatever. So right. I appreciate all the information. I appreciate all the work that y'all have done in putting these together. And I hope this pilot program is really seen quickly, ramped up quickly, so that we can see what the benefit of it is and start expanding into other parts of these parish. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
All right, Council, we have a motion. Motion to approve by Councilwoman Coleman, second by Councilman Moak. Do we have any opposition? Motion carries. Item 106, authorizing the Mayor President to amend the professional service agreement with Nuraco from $75,000 to a not to exceed amount of $127,200 to provide by way of safe, hopeful, healthy, the planning, systemization, management, and activation of the Peace Over Everything Community Outreach Kiosk by the Mayor's Office. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item?
Council members, you should have received one email comment in opposition to item 106.
Seeing none, we're going to go to council. Councilman Hurst.
I just want to know what the kiosk is. Just what is the kiosk?
So there are 2 items on the agenda tonight for Safe Hope for Healthy. And if you've seen any of our Safe Hope for Healthy activations, we do come out with a team of folks, specifically our high-risk interventionists that come out, do community-sponsored events, engage with members of the community, try to get surveys based on needs assessments and what's going on in those communities, and if and when possible, do intervene in interpersonal conflicts.
So I'm saying the kiosk is that actual machine that's out there?
Yeah, so the tables that they do when they go out there to these events, when they have these tables set up and they have the team of individuals out there representing Safe Hope for Healthy, and yes, they do have the actual digital
Oh, so you consider the whole thing. I didn't know if it was a new piece of technology. That's all I was asking. I'm not against it. Jessica did email us. I just saw the word kiosk in it.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Motion approved by Councilman Dunn Jr., second by Councilman Hurst. Any opposition? Motion carries. Item 107, authorizing the Mayor President to amend the professional service agreement with line for line from $38,533 to a not to exceed amount of $80,000 to provide by way of safe, hopeful, health. I say that every time. Safe, hopeful, healthy, the service of high-risk interventionalists to actively engage with individuals at high risk of involvement in gun violence and related activities by the Mayor's Office. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item?
Council members, you should have received one email comment in opposition to item 107.
Seeing none, we'll go to council. Motion by Councilman Gode, second by Councilman Moak. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 108, authorizing the Mayor President on behalf of the Division of Human Development and Services Head Start Program to amend the project period of one-time funding received from the COVID-19 CARES Act funding and extending until December 2024, and authorizing the execution of all documents in connection therewith by the Human Services Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. We have a motion by Councilman Dunn Jr., second by Councilman Hurst. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 109, authorizing the Mayor President to execute an intergovernmental agreement between Ascension Parish Government, East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 and East Baton Rouge Parish and Iberville Parish in connection with the Bayou Manchac Restoration and Wards Creek Realignment Project, an amount not to exceed $30 million by the Transportation and Drainage Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Councilman Gode.
I'm going to just ask Fred if he'll come and talk through this. It's a pretty major item in terms of our stormwater.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, we did have the opportunity to receive a watershed initiative grant through the Amite River Basin Commission, which I am one of the board members. And certainly I do love my parish very well, so I like to make sure we get as much money as we can in our parish. This agreement that we have here is under the watershed, and it's actually received about $100 million, and we asked it to split it up to about $30 million to finish up the Wards Creek realignment and also the Bayou Manchac, some of the work that needed to be done in regards to from a drainage aspect. The parishes are involved because we're all are impacted as EBR, Everville Parish and Ascension. The agreement that y'all have together is for all three parishes to commit to meeting some obligations. And the one thing I did not mention, which I should have, we're not putting up $10 million. We're putting up around $60,000 to finish up the hydraulic study that needs to be done to be submitted for the grant. So each parish is going to be committing $60,000 to finish up the actual model itself till we can submit as part of the grant application through the State Office of Community Development. It is something that is very needed, that we knew when we finished up the portion of Wards Creek what we needed to do. We're working very closely with Breck also for an opportunity to realign the Wards Creek. Still will continue to flow where it is, but to also realign and get water out of there much quicker, to get into to Bayou Manchac and get out of the Amite River. And those things are what we're working on currently with Breck and also with the PLD, which is a Pontchartrain Levee District also. So it is a good opportunity for us in regards to move our parish forward. And while it may sound like it's only down in the south, this area here also, Wards Creek drains a good portion of parish. So I think it's imperative to people to know that while I don't want anybody to think with just 1 to 2 council districts, it's a good portion of the parish all the way up to Eden Park, and where Catholic High, all that water from all this area ultimately ends up down into Manchac, which is critical. So the more that we can get done, the better the flow of water. So I'll answer any other questions that you may have.
We have a motion by Councilman Hudson, second by Councilman Gode. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 110, authorizing the Mayor President to execute supplemental agreement number 1 to the contract for engineer services with GEC Incorporated in connection with the Terrace Street Drainage Pump Station renovations project, an amount not to exceed $267,650 by the Transportation and Drainage Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. We have a motion by Councilman Moak, second by Councilman Dunn Jr. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 111, authorizing Mayor President to execute a contract for title review services with Milestone Title, Inc. for services associated with the East Baton Rouge Flood Risk Reduction Project, Amite River and Tributaries Watershed Flood Management Project, in an amount not to exceed $175,000 by the Transportation and Drainage Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. We have a motion by Councilman Hurst, second by the chair. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 112, authorizing Mayor President to execute a contract for title review services with Daigle Fisk and Kucinich for services associated with the East Baton Rouge Parish Flood Risk Reduction Project, Amite River and Tributaries Watershed Flood Risk Management Project, in an amount not to exceed $175,000 by the Transportation and Drainage Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, go to council. We have a motion. Motion by Councilman Hurst, second by the chair. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 113, authorizing the mayor president to execute a contract for title review services with the Mayhell, Fondrell, and Blaze LLC for services associated with the East Baton Rouge Flood Risk Reduction Project, Amite River and Tributaries Watershed Flood Risk Management Project, an amount not to exceed $175,000 by the Transportation and Drainage Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this? Seeing none, go to council. Motion by Councilman Hurst, second by the chair. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 114, authorizing the mayor president to execute a contract for engineering design services with Mayor Engineers Limited for services associated with Move BR Enhancement Project, Glasgow Avenue sidewalks, Hyacinth Avenue to Perkins Avenue, an amount not to exceed $269,174.82 by the Transportation and Drainage Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item?
Council members, you should have received one email comment in opposition to item 114.
Seeing none, go to council. Motion by Councilman Hurst, second by Councilwoman Adams. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 115, authorizing Mayor President to execute a contract for construction inspection services with Richard C. Lambert Consultants LLC for services associated with the Move BR Enhancement Project, Baton Rouge Bus Rapid Transit, an amount not to exceed $566,000 by Transportation and Drainage Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item?
Council members, you should have received one email comment in opposition to item 115.
Seeing none, we'll go to council. We have a motion by Councilman Hurst, second by Councilwoman Coleman. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 116, authorizing Mayor President to execute a supplemental agreement for professional engineering services with Vectura Consulting Services LLC for additional services associated with Move BR Enhancement Projects, Bluebonnet Mid-Block Pedestrian Crossing, in an amount not to exceed $35,434.50 by the Transportation and Drainage Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item?
Council members, you should have received one email comment in opposition to item 116.
Seeing none, we'll go to council. Motion by Councilwoman Adams, second by Councilman Goday. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 117, authorizing Mayor President to execute a supplemental agreement for professional engineering services with GoTech Consulting Engineers, Inc. for final plan services associated with Move BR Enhancement Project, Sharp Road, Florida Boulevard to Old Hammond Highway, in an amount not to exceed $845,528.55 by the Transportation and Drainage Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Motion by Councilwoman Adams, second by Councilman Hurst. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 118, authorizing Mayor President to execute a contract for traffic signal construction inspection services with Vectura Consulting Services LLC for services associated with the Move BR Enhancement Project, Baton Rouge Bus Rapid Transit, in an amount not to exceed $157,250 by the Transportation and Drainage Director. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item?
Council members, you should have received one email comment in opposition to item 118.
Come on, no way. Seeing none, we'll go to council. Motion by Councilman Goday, second by Councilman Hurst. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 119, authorizing Mayor President to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Capital City Family Health Center Incorporated, DB, doing business as Care South, in an amount not to exceed $400,000 to support the development of a new geriatric and physical therapy facility in Baton Rouge to address the growing demand for specialized care for elderly patients, funded by the ARPA grant by the Mayor President. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item?
Council members, you should have received one email comment in opposition to item 119.
Seeing none, we'll go to council. Motion by Councilman Dunn Jr., second by Councilman Hurst. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 120, authorizing Parish of East Baton Rouge and the City of Baton Rouge to name the city parish-owned property known as the Old Fire Station Number 16, located at 1155 Rosenwald Road, as the Scotlandville Multi-Purpose Cultural Center by Councilwoman Banks. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council.
Yes, motion to approve, because one of the things we've received is several nonprofits that are interested in having this go to its original use, which was to serve the community. And so being able to start with an inclusive name, some of the nonprofits include the Baton Rouge Food Bank, Rosebud Training Center, East Baton Rouge School System for Adult Education. So basically just being able to move forward with the possibility of having those services for the community.
We have a motion. Councilwoman Coleman.
I have a question regarding that. Who will own this now, since we've taken it from the Scotlandville alumni? Who will own this? And when you say, what's the time frame for them to do what was expected of the Alumni Center? And yeah, that's what I want to know.
Okay, so even when it was under the operation, it was always owned by the city of Baton Rouge, and that's still the case. It is owned and have always been owned by the city of Baton Rouge. The CEA was to allow a nonprofit to put it into usage for the community. So what we've been working with is, I think Aaron just got back from vacation, or he was off, but we are working in getting all the nonprofits that are interested into the building. One of the reasons a name change was to begin talking as it relates to CEA agreements. Also, making sure that a lot of the comments that were brought before that on timelines, what's going to be expected, intent. And, one of the things that I thought is that we should have whomever come before the council with the annual update. So I think that we should be, financial reports should be there. I think there should be a strategic plan. So those are the conversations that myself and Aaron and some of the nonprofits have been engaging in. So we should have something soon.
And I think all of that is great, but that was not a part of the contract that was put before the alumni. And so that is my concern here now. So the contract did not say this for the Scotlandville alumni. And so now all of these things are going to be placed in here in order to get all of these nonprofits under the roof here. And so that's my biggest concern about this.
And we also have several times reached out to the Alumni Association and the original, and they have declined to be part any further. Also, you got to remember, this 10 years ago is based on the way the city has always done it. And so one of the things that makes it so interested in when we have a council, the reason why we are constantly evolving is a lot of times the way we fix things is when we discover there's a problem.
Evolution is great.
That's it,
evolution is great. But going back to revisit that which we expect from organizations. So that's my concern here.
Councilman Moak.
We're talking about renaming the building. Are we renaming the building for an and please, I apologize if I'm going to start shutting you off or whatever, but are we renaming the building for a particular organization that will be managing this? Yes or no?
So now, okay, but I just wanted to tell you it had no name.
Okay, we don't have an organization that is managing the building or anything right now, or signed a contract or getting a contract right now. We do not have anyone lined up right now.
No, that has to be approved by the council, and that's the conversation I alluded to with.
Okay, but we don't have an organization right now to do anything with this building, to manage these different organizations or run this facility. We do?
We do, but.
And what is the name of the organization?
Okay, if you don't mind, we have been in conversations for 30 days, but we cannot, it's up to the council. So one of the things that didn't happen before is that we had we gave them what we wanted based on what other people, they weren't able to do it. So one of the things this council, including you, have said is how important it is that we be more specific. I cannot, as one person on the council, come and say what it's going to be. But one of the things that particularly the food bank said is they don't want, I guess, the negativity that fell out of it. They don't want that to be part of it.
I
So-
understand that. What my question is, we removed it from the Scotlandville Alumni Association.
And they
That
had
is-
no name.
That is an organization that was going to manage the building and do stuff in it and everything else. We removed it from that organization. They had a contract that we stopped. Who and what organization is going to handle the new contract that we were going to supposedly make it more specific, have set goals and everything else? What organization, if we rename this building, is going to manage and do that contract for the Scotlandville
Councilman,
Multipurpose Cultural Situate Center?
This is just about a name change.
I understand that. But I don't want to go naming changes and going into all this down this road when we don't even have an organization yet that's going to use the facility or anything like that. Right now, it's just the old Scotlandville Fire Station.
Right, and that's why we're trying to give it an identity.
So
in
why
our-
don't we find an organization to run and manage this facility, and that's going to work a contract with us, and maybe in that contract, then we could state in the contract that it will be renamed the Scotlandville Multipurpose Cultural Center.
So we could do that, but if you think about, oh, I'm
Councilman
sorry.
Moses,
I
if
thought
I
it
ask you
was
a question, that's fine.
That's what I just think. Here we are. We've just pulled it from the Alumni Association. It's still fresh. It's still everything else, and no one has presented a full plan to us, the council, of what the building is now going to be used for. I know you have ideas and things like
And
that.
what I told you
but
is the
what I'm
building
saying
has
is
been on vacation.
we want to rename the building before we even start working with another organization or have a contract or redo the contract to start looking for someone else to do it. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Councilman Dunn Jr.
I just want to make a point of clarity. My colleague, Councilman Moke, is speaking French when he used the term "we removed this building," and we removed this agreement from the Scotlandville Alumni Association. We did not do that. Councilwoman Banks and Councilman Moke and others did that. Several of us voted against that happening. I think you and Councilwoman Coleman asked some valid questions. I do think we need to have an organization in mind and get their input on the naming rights before we change the name. And to Councilwoman Coleman's point, you know, we all wanted requirements, expectations of not only the Scotlandville Alumni Association, but anybody who received a building from the city parish. And I think those requirements and expectations should be made available and adhered to by whoever the organization is that's going to manage and operate this facility. That's my input. Thank you.
Councilman Hurst.
Hey, what I think we're doing right now is being extremely premature. And I said, I know that you've had some conversations with your district. I believe it's going to happen, right? However you want it to happen, if you want it to happen that way. But what I would say is that as we get into contract negotiations with these folks, if somebody says, I don't want to take responsibility for maintenance or any other thing, and they back out of it, I don't want to pay the insurance requirement, then while it's a great idea and there is a plan, there's no execution of that. So for that reason, I agree with my colleague Moke on this one, that as the new contract comes into fruition, then the naming rights should be in that specific place, because they have, you know, like I know it's like in anything, everybody supports you until it's time to show up, right? And so as you might have 20 organizations that want to be a part now, and then when you put the contract in place based on responsibilities and divvying up of money, whatever they may want to do, 20 turns into 2 or 0. So I'm not against the renaming of it. I just think that we should find an organization, like Mo said first, and make it a part of the contract. I actually agree with that, because you never know what happens at the negotiation table. And then a specific organization, if it boils down to one, they may want to name it something else, because it is a reflection of what they do and how they serve the community. So I may ask that it be deferred 60 days. That way you can find an organization or whatever you decide to do at that point. and then include it in the agreement. So I support making that comment. And I have a substitute motion for a 60-day referral.
May I?
Councilwoman Banks.
Yeah, so first of all, it's only an introduction. So it's not an item. That's number one. It's only an introduction, right? Isn't that right, Ashley?
No. This is on for adoption.
Oh, I didn't mean, okay. Okay, well, let me, because that's what I was asking you, but anyway, I sent the no file. So first of all, in consultation with Attorney William Aaron, he's been on vacation, he just got back Tuesday. But the reason why first of all, the building it's just like the Jewel J. Newman Community Center. We have several CEAs, but Baton Rouge Primary Care could not name the Jewel J. Newman Community Center the Baton Rouge Primary Care Collaborative. The Baton Rouge, what else we have? The Council on Aging does not change the city building to the Council on Aging. So what we're doing is changing the name because we have to do a CEA with all the organization. Yes, there will be a lead organization. So when we're setting down doing a CEA, we can't put the old fire station. I mean, we could, but that's not the name of it. It's fire station, I think number 16, where if you Google Scotlandville Fire Station number 16, it gives you the new building. This one doesn't have it. For 10 years, the Scotlandville Alumni Association did not name the building, and they did not have the rights to. No one should have the rights to renaming a city parish building that they don't own without going before this council. So we're doing our due diligence so that in bringing the people together, we're able to refer to the building. It has nothing to do with anything else. Nobody changes the name of the River Center because Chick-fil-A is in there. That does not even make sense. So that's all the reason there. I don't mean to, I know, but it's Raising Cane. But if Chick-fil-A moving in, we're not going to change it to Raising Cane. So I don't know where that mindset, but this is so that we can have, and you don't put the name of a building in a CEA for just usage. No. Y'all missing the point. And that could be, so you don't change a name, you don't put the name of a city parish building in a temporary CEA, people. So that is what this item is about. It's so that when we come before you, we're able to say nonprofit ABC and the city of Baton Rouge to use the Scotlandville Multipurpose Cultural Center. That's all. If y'all have a better name, I don't care. I was just trying to make it make sense because we do want it to be multipurpose. And when I Googled it, that was one of the names. We couldn't call it, we didn't want to call it another community center. I'm saying we. So that's where that came from. I can't believe it's a big old deal. But it's just so to give, and I know if you don't have a community where identifying places are important, but for our community in Scotland, being able to identify buildings is something that I think that any predominantly, especially Black community would want. Ownership and naming your buildings and not letting it be out there like an idol. So I make a motion to approve. Oh, that's where I am.
Councilman Moe.
Yeah, I just, as my esteemed colleague, Councilman Dunn, likes to clarify things, we as a council did vote to take it back from the Scotlandville Association. Some of my esteemed colleagues might not have voted directly for it. So, but with that being said, Sean, I appreciate what you're trying to do. I think you've worked hard on this location and everything else. I just feel it's premature. I agree with the deferral. I think I would like to actually, I know we've already made motions and everything to delete it or remove it until we actually get what we want in the contract, that we want to see somebody new coming up to sign and take over it, and then go out looking for those people and then come up with the naming that they might want to do. So I don't know if anybody seconded the motion to defer or not, but I think that's what we need to go ahead and do.
So you did understand why we're doing it though, right? You can do it in the CEA.
Shauna. Okay, so I don't think this is premature, if I understand it correctly. And Shauna, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is the reason for naming it the Scotlandville Multipurpose Cultural Center is to try to set a vision, and that's what you as a representative, so the community is trying to set a vision for what you want it to be, and who comes in, whether it's one or multiple groups, would ideally fit under that name because that's the vision set out for it. So I don't think it's premature. Could it be done afterwards? Absolutely, but I don't think it's a problem to do it before. Is that accurate? Okay. So I see no problem. I seconded your motion, by the way. Councilwoman Coleman.
Aaron, are you in the house or anybody from? All right. My question is this. See, when we talk about, I like to look at the legality component of a thing. That group had a contract. In that contract, nothing was in there that said specifically, you all need to do this, this, and this by this time. Am I correct? I say, Billy.
Councilwoman.
We had
this is all we're talking about tonight is the name change, not the termination of a contract that occurred before.
But all of that is wrapped around. See, don't try to cause me to change my opinion or my vote on this. These are my 5 minutes.
I'm not.
And so what I am asking
tie
is,
it to a name change.
when you move to make a change, since they want the word change to be in there, when you move to make a change and you move in from a contract that the folk had, and you held them responsible for something that was not in that contract. Are you following me?
I think so, yes.
Okay, and so if we're holding them responsible for something that was not even in that contract, then how can we move in any way to change what it was when they didn't break the contract? And then we are holding, we're putting ourselves in a bind because here we are rolling out here changing what was, but there were no stipulations in that contract for that organization. So we're moving ahead just like we are right, and we are not.
Well, I believe the CEA, in my opinion, had stipulations. It may not have been as specific, and Councilman Dunn had suggested things, and y'all all have.
Was it written?
Correct.
In there about timeline. Now, the last time we met.
No, my point is the CEA had some things in there to do. The argument was that those things weren't done, so the council ultimately voted to terminate that CEA. Now, as far as the name goes, again, that is a separate issue. This has nothing to do with Scotlandville Alumni Association. This has nothing to do with who may be coming in.
How it does, and when this is where the Alumni Association was.
Well, I guess I'm not sure about what the argument is. Those folks have been instructed to leave. Ultimately, they may or may not. They still have a few days left on that 30 days. But the idea of whether we name it the Scotlandville Multicultural Person, it doesn't matter who would be coming in the future. If this council wants it to have that name, then that's what you're voting on tonight. So the CEA that was in place, you authorized the parish attorney's office to ask those folks to terminate that agreement and then for them to move out. That's what's going on now. I don't mean to confuse the issue, but
You're not confusing me. I know what I'm talking
Okay.
about. No, you're not confusing me. Okay.
All right, we have a motion that's been, and we have a substitute motion. Substitute motion was to defer for 60 days, Councilman Hurst. That was seconded by Councilman Moak. We're going to vote on the substitute motion first.
Just to clarify, council members, there is no meeting in 60 days, that it will be deferred to December 11th.
I don't have
Councilman
it.
Hurst? Okay. And I think Councilman Moak seconded it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wanna vote on the machines?
Yeah, vote on machines.
Machines are open on the substitute motion to defer to December 11th. Motion fails. We're going to vote next on the original motion to approve. Machines are open on the motion to approve. Motion fails.
All right, moving on. We're going to take adjudicated properties. We're going to take item 121 to 140 together. Lot 59, Square 11, subdivision, South Baton Rouge, Metro Council District 10, Coleman, high bidder, Pennywell Investment Properties, LLC, $100. Lot 102, subdivision, Glen Oaks, Metro Council District 5, Hearst, high bidder, Clark Family Homes, LLC, $36,000. Lot 1, Square 59, subdivision, North Baton Rouge, Metro Council District 2, Banks, high bidder, Kevin Williams, $7,400. Lot 18, Square 10, subdivision, Standard Heights, Metro Council District 10, Coleman, high bidder, Kevin Williams, $13,200. Lot 67, subdivision, Lincoln Heights, Metro Council District 2, Banks, high bidder, Dion Francois, $100. Lot 4A, 4B, and 5A, subdivision, Swart, Metro Council District 10, Coleman, high bidder, Michaela Jones, $9,500. Lot 26, Point Square 43, subdivision, South Baton Rouge, Metro Council District 10, Coleman, high bidder, Jamel Smith, $500. Lot 10, Square 41, subdivision, South Baton Rouge, Metro Council District 10, Coleman, high bidder, Leona Murray, $100. Lot 35, Square 15, South Baton Rouge, Metro Council District 10, Coleman, high bidder, Jaffer Odoms, $100. Lot 3, Square 3, subdivision, University City, Metro Council District 2, Banks, high bidder, Nakia White, $15,000. Lot 12, Square 6, subdivision, Baker Town Site, Metro Council District 2, Banks, high bidder, Whitmore Enterprises, LLC, $7,600. Lot 4, subdivision, GB Anderson Tract, Metro Council District 1, Knoll, high bidder, Whitmore Enterprises, LLC, $28,100. Subdivision, Zachary, Metro Council District 1, Knoll, high bidder, HR3 Productions, LLC, $30,000. Lot 32, Square 31, subdivision, Greenville Extension, Metro Council District 7, Darazan, high bidder, Deborah K.S. Briley, $500. Lot 42, Square 34, subdivision, Banks, Metro Council District 10, Coleman, high bidder, Ida Guy Smith, $2,500. Lot 12, Square 86, subdivision, Eskruma, Metro Council District 10, Coleman, high bidder, Nadia K. Johnson, $300. Lot 1, Point Square 12, subdivision, Progress Park, Metro Council District 7, Darazan, high bidder, Kevin Williams II, $11,000. Lot 230, subdivision, Belfort, Metro Council District 7, Darazan, high bidder, Tarmel Garvin, $22,100. Lot 17, Square 15, subdivision, East Fairfields, Metro Council District 7, Darazan, high bidder, Isis Wright, $10,500. Lot 4, Square 2, subdivision, Goodwood Home Sites, Metro Council District 6, Dunn Jr., high bidder, Joseph Furr, $36,000. We have a motion to approve items 121 through 140. Oh, sorry. Anyone wishing to speak on these items? Seeing none, go to council. Motion approved by Councilman Hurst. Second by Councilwoman Amorosa. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, see your separate sheet for administrative matters. A, receiving a report from the Scotlandville Food Access Commission on grocery store project by Councilwoman Shauna Banks. The reason is the item is being requested as administrative matters to allow the report to be given on November 13th. B, a resolution naming the outdoor pavilion at the Jewel J. Newman Community Center in honor of former Metropolitan Council member Ulysses Z. Addison Jr. by Councilwoman Shauna Banks. Reasons being requested as administrative matters to allow the item to be approved on November 13th. Item C, authorization of the Mayor, President, and/or Chairman of the Airport Commission to execute a non-federal reimbursement agreement between the Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, and the City of Baton Rouge and Parish of East Baton Rouge on behalf of the Greater Baton Rouge Airport District in the amount of $314,401.48 by the Aviation Director. It's being requested as administrative matter as initial deadline for the agenda pass. I need a motion to waive the rules to allow the items to be introduced. Motion. We're gonna have a public hearing on the motion to waive the rules. Anyone here wishing to speak on the motion to waive the rules? Seeing none, we need a motion. Does anybody opposed to waiving the rules? Any opposition to waiving the rules? Seeing none, items are introduced. We did that. There was no opposition to introducing. Need a motion to introduce the items. Motion by Councilman Dunn Jr., second by Councilman Hurst. Any opposed? Items are introduced. Administrative matter number D, letter D, authorizing Mayor President to execute an agreement with B2G Now on behalf of the Purchasing Division in an amount not to exceed $83,275 for an initial term of 1 year to enhance the documentation and data analysis related to purchasing and supplier diversity initiatives. While it's required, the contract effective date is October 31st, 2024. Need a motion to waive the rules. Do we have a motion? Motion by Councilman Hurst. Do we have a second? Second by Councilwoman Amorosa. Public hearing on the motion to waive the rules. Anyone want to speak on the motion to waive the rules? Seeing none, need a vote on the motion to waive the rules. Motion by Councilman Hurst, second by Councilwoman Amorosa. Any opposed? Now we're going to call for a public hearing on the item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Motion by Councilman Hurst. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Goday. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Appointments. Volunteer Fire Department, Fire District 3, Brownsfield. Consideration of reappointing or replacing George Kelly, whose term expires on December 31st, 2024. Current ballot, George Kelly, Thomas Williston. Item 142, the Volunteer Fire Department, Fire District 3, Brownsfield, consideration of reappointing or replacing Thomas Williston, whose term expires on December 31st, 2024. Current ballot, George Kelly, Thomas Williston. Item 143, Volunteer Fire Department, Board of Commissioners, Fire District 4, Central, consideration of reappointing or replacing Scott Browning. Current ballot, Scott Browning. Do we have a motion to reappoint, or anyone here wishing to speak on these items? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Do we have a motion to reappoint George Kelly, Thomas Williston, and Scott Browning? Motion by Councilman Hurst, second by Councilwoman Adams. Any opposed? Motion carries. Change orders, renovations to the Scotlandville Branch Library, restart, Phase 1, Archives Building, contractor Ratcliffe Construction, change order amount $27,864.23. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, go to council. Motion by Councilman Hurst, second by the chair. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to take 145 through 147 together. 145, Ahu and Va control upgrades at Louisiana Arts and Science Museum. Contractor Johnson Controls. Final cost $59,000. 146, installation of new evaporative cooling tower at United Way Building. Contractor Corporate Mechanical Contractor. Final cost $140,000. Item 147, upgrade TTO existing IT room, Ahu for emergency cooling at City Hall Building. Contractor Corporate Mechanical Contractor. Final cost $70,000. Anyone here wishing to speak on these items? Seeing none, go to council. We have a motion. Motion by Councilman Goday, second by Councilwoman Adams. Any opposed? Motion carries. Acceptance of low bids. Item 148, BRPD Training Academy renovations. Low bid, Centurion Construction Management LLC, $2,270,000. Do we have anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Motion by Councilman Goday, second by Councilwoman Adams. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll go to reports. Receiving a report from Safe BR by Councilwoman Laurie Adams and Councilwoman Jen Rocca. There's been a request to delete this item. Do we have anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Do we have a motion to delete? Motion by Councilwoman Adams, second by Councilman Moak. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item's been deleted. Item 150, receiving the third quarter 2024 report from the East Baton Rouge Parish Communications District by Councilman Rowdy Goday. We're going to hear the report and then we'll have the public hearing.
Good afternoon. Just to touch on a couple of things that we still have going on. The North Tower project, which is just outside of Zachary, that would add additional coverage in that area for both the emergency responder radios, and we also look at having cell sites on that same tower, so it would provide better cell service in there for the ability of people to dial 911. That project is moving along pretty nicely. At the backup center that we created, we now have our computer-aided dispatch system up and operational there. We're still bringing in the 911 stuff to move forward for it to be fully operational. Besides that, that's basically what I got.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to have a public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Councilman Goday.
Send me details, if you would, on that backup location. And then we've talked about a tower in South Baton Rouge, because some of those 911 calls are going to Iberville Parish. Is any update on that?
Not really, not until we actually move from the E911 to NG911 across the entire parish. Once that happens, when 911 calls that are made there cross jurisdictional lines like that, currently it's where that tower sits. So if it's hitting a tower, whatever carrier it is, if it's in a different parish, that it's going to go to that 911 center. Once we fully go to next generation 911, it actually uses the device's GPS location, and it will get you to wherever you're at, wherever that 911 center is.
Do we have a process worked out where if Iberville receives that call, but it's an EBR emergency, there's an immediate route? It's not a transfer, like you're not telling, hold on 1 second, I'll transfer you. You are telling them that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how it currently works. But they are very well aware of down there around U Club that there is that tower that one of the cell providers put up just on the other side of the line, and that's where for that particular
They're
cell
routing to.
company, that's why those calls
Okay.
go down there to Iberville first.
Okay. Thank you, man. Thank you for staying to give the report.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 151, receiving an update from the Department of Human Resources and the administration regarding the next steps in furtherance of the pay study, including consolidation of positions and restructuring benefits by Councilman Darrell Hurst. We will have a report and then we'll have the public hearing, I believe.
Good evening. I just want to clarify, do you want a report from HR at this time or retirement? Okay.
How you doing? James Mack, Director of Baton Rouge Retirement System. I'm not sure exactly the extent of the report that you want me to share with the council. I can share a little bit about the pension plan specifically and where we are and what our goals are.
Well, can you just give the 10 minutes? Let's start off with Ms. Pearson real quick, kind of go over the overall plan because it's bigger than just pension, how it all ties together, and then talk about the discussion that we had in like the nickel tour, not the 2 hour.
From the September 25th council meeting, you asked for a review of the retirement benefit structure and also our medical benefit structure. Since that time has happened, there has been 2 meetings with Hub International, and Hub was recently selected as the city parish employee benefits consultant. And so they are currently in conversation and in communication with Blue Cross and our other carriers to get information to provide a strategic plan that will include cost-saving recommendations for the city. So that's the latest on the medical side of the benefits review.
Okay, and then, so let me make this very clear. This was not my recommendation. This was, I keep forgetting the guy's name.
Dr. Russell Campbell.
Dr. Campbell's recommendation to do consolidation, to look at restructuring benefits, and to leverage technology to improve efficiency and productivity in city parish. So as a next step, what I did was reach out to Ms. Pearson and say, hey, how can we look at the benefits portion of it? What options are available? From a medical side, we started looking at the numbers. When he said that we were in the 45th percentile, I reached out to Mr. Mack, who had already been reached out to prior to, and say, what, if any, options were available for us to reduce both short and long term from the retirement standpoint. And then we also reached out to Eric Romero about how we can leverage technology within city parish to stop replication, as well as how do we use it to improve efficiencies in what we do to make productivity in our workforce better. So it is a 3-part deal, but each one of them are breaking down their part because I'm getting so many questions about where are we, what are we doing. The bottom line people want to know is when am I getting more money in my paycheck, right? And so the whole point of doing this exercise was not necessarily, number one, to figure out what you should get paid. We've gotten to that point. Number 2 is how do we get to those next steps without having as much of an impact on the taxpayer by going millages, whether it be redirection of millages, whether it be new millages, whatever it may be, to get to the point of raising that pay to the 32 million that was suggested to put us at a livable wage. So the part that we did with the meeting with CPERS, which is the retirement system that James Mack is over, is bring them in the room to discuss the options that were available, what that would look like both in the short term and long term. And this is not a go-to end-all be-all, but what this is an option to determine what's available to make a difference in our workforce and how we can make people have both a livable wage and a great retirement at the same time. So Ms. Pearson did her first part of going to the medical side of benefits, and then Mr. Mack brought the actuary into a meeting to discuss what that pension portion would look like, or if we even need to do anything with it. And so I want to say this on a public record. I'm not against pension. I'm not for 401k. I'm for whatever allows our employees to live well and retire well. And without doing the due diligence and getting the data, we don't have that information. And so this is just exploratory options to see what that would look like. And if it's not great for city parish, we go in a different direction. If it is great for city parish, then it reduces the amount of millage that we need to put in place, whether it be redirected or directed on the taxpayers. So this is kind of your whole baby. So I'll let you turn it back over to you and see how you want to introduce Mr. Mack.
Before we move on to Mr. Mack, you mentioned this was a 3-part review: the medical side, the retirement side, and position consolidation.
Well, really 4-part: position consolidation and then technology with Eric Romero, which I've also had discussions with as well.
I do want to clarify that I did contact Dr. Campbell regarding the position consolidation. We did discuss before that it was not included in the original study. Dr. Campbell's feedback is that he does not recommend position consolidation. His specific words were that past experiences show employees value titles as much as money, and generally departments are not supportive of mass class consolidation. On the HR side, we use different levels of positions as a training series and also as a career ladder. So to consolidate positions, it would eliminate the ability to hire with no experience and allow them to gain experience and promote them to different careers within the city.
So I got it. And look, I'm only doing what I thought he said as the next step. So if we're not going the route, I'm okay with that.
Okay, and I just
All
wanted
right,
to
thank you. I just want to get to the end goal of how do we get livable wages and better retirement. Thank you, Mr. Mack.
Thank you. I will try to be brief and not try to bore you all too much with a lot of actuarial figures and data, but I think the bottom line is the councilman was concerned with the employer cost of the pension plan as it currently exists. So I just wanted to give you guys just some data on that. So right now, the CPRS plan is about 67% funded. The average here in Louisiana is around 75% funded, just to give you some perspective. So in other words, we have about $1.3 billion in assets and around $2 billion in total liabilities. So that's where we are from a funding perspective. And how that works is quite simply, we have what's called our benefits and then the administrative expenses to run the plan on this end. And then you have contributions from employees and employers, and then investment returns. So when those things equal out, you have what's considered a 100% funded plan, and your assets equal your liabilities. Pretty simple. For us, we have close to $700 million in what's called an unfunded accrued liability. In other words, the difference between that $1.3 billion in assets and $2 billion in liabilities is about $700 million that's unfunded. And so what that means is right now for next year, the employer cost for the plan is 35.5%. That's what the employer is paying, and that's a percentage of payroll. So that's what it costs to fund the plan next year. However, that cost is broken up into two buckets. The normal cost, which is the cost to actually fund the retirement, the benefits, and then the UAL, the unfunded accrued liability, the $700 million that I just mentioned. So of those costs, it's about 6.5% to actually fund the benefits of the retirement plan next year. But it's 29% to cover the UAL, the $700 million, essentially is a retirement debt, a $700 million debt. So when we talk about why are employer costs so expensive, the vast majority of that is this unfunded accrued liability that has accrued over decades and decades. This is not something that pops up overnight. And so I was answering the councilman's questions in terms of, well, can we have a different plan? How do we lower these employer costs? And even if you change plans, you still have this huge $700 million UAL that's not going anywhere. And right now it's being paid out over a 21-year payment structure, which is typical for pension plans. Typically, they pay their UALs over anywhere between 10 years and 30 years because you obviously can't pay a lump sum payment like that at once. So that's the nature of where we are as a plan in general. In terms of taking a look at what we can do to the plan to lower some of the ongoing costs, we are in the middle of what's called an experience study right now. So most pension plans do this every 3 to 5 years. And what an experience study is you take a look at your actuarial assumptions that you made, and then you take a look at the previous 3 or 5 years of actual data, and then you figure out were your assumptions close to what the actual data was. So you take a look at the impact of any changes to your plan, whether that's going to lower your costs or increase your costs, and you take a look at what that impact will do to the UAL. So we are in the middle of an experience study right now that we should have. I have my actuary here, but I believe in the first quarter of next year, we should have the results of that experience study, if not a little bit sooner. And it takes a look at everything. It takes a look at what salary increases do to your costs, mortality changes. It takes a look at the rate at which people are retiring or withdrawing from the system. It takes a look at what we do with our converted leave. So it takes a look at the plan holistically and says, okay, we're on par with where we thought we would be 5 years ago based on our assumptions, or we're way off and we need to make some changes. So hopefully once we get the results of that experience study, I'll be happy to share them with the council overall. But you all have any specific questions on the plan, I'll be glad to answer them.
Well, we're going to go ahead and have a public hearing, and then council, if anybody has a question. So is anyone here wishing to speak on the presentation? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Councilman Hurst.
Hey, James, stay up there for me. So, look, this is more of an exploratory thing like we talked about. And what we talked about initially at a high level is that it would not have a direct impact today, but it would stop the bleeding. So that 30 years down the road, we're making a decision today that doesn't affect the city long term, right? Whatever that may be. So can you please put on the record some of the discussions that we've had about how any changes would affect current people within this plan?
Sure, absolutely.
Especially some of the protected folks, yeah.
Right. So there are a few different ways that you can address changes to a pension system plan. One of them is you can create different tiers. So let's say we get the experience study back and it indicates that some of the provisions in our plan are probably a little bit more generous than they need to be, or maybe we need to push the retirement date back a year or two to save costs, something like that. Then you create a second tier, which the retirement system did in 2015. So we have what's called now, we have employees that were hired pre-2015 and then post-2015 employees. And the benefits that they have are slightly different for those hired prior to that date than those hired after that date. And that's pretty standard for pension systems. As they review their plan over years and decades, they realize some changes may need to be made, some cost savings. And so you can't reduce the benefit of someone who's already vested in your plan. So that's why you have to create a new tier for new employees hired after a certain date.
Can you repeat that last statement? You cannot do what? I mean, that's very important.
Let me rephrase it. It's not that you can't change the benefit structure for members that are already vested in the plan, but you cannot reduce them. So you cannot legally reduce the benefits for someone who's already vested in the plan.
Thank you.
Sure.
And question is, if we were to change it, let's hypothetically say we did go 401k for whatever reason, which we know at this point that probably is not the option. But if we did go that route, how would that affect people who are currently on the pension plan? Based on the legal statutes that we talked about.
So what you would be talking about is basically creating a secondary plan, and with two options, either shutting down the pension plan for new employees and forcing them all into some additional plan like a 401k plan or a 457 plan, or having two plans run side by side and giving new employees the option to go into one or the other. That's always an option as well. My question is I always ask the question is, why are we making a change? So if you say, let's add an additional plan like a 401k.
I specifically want to know if somebody's in a retirement plan and we change it, does it affect their ability to retire? Yes or no, based on the cost structure?
No.
Thank you. That's all I wanted for the record. And I will say I'm good with you. That was my main point I was getting to. And Ms. Pearson, one last question, please. is I had another question I want to put on the record about drop. I spoke to Angie about it, and she kind of explained how it plays into our retirement. But if we changed anything, somebody who's currently on drop, would they be affected by any changes?
That is still kind of retirement
Okay,
related.
I'll go back to James. Sorry about that.
No.
Thank you. That's all I needed to hear. Thank you.
Councilwoman Rocca?
I'm not sure who needs to answer these questions, but just please stay close by. Dr. Russell had intimated to all of us that we far exceeded the benefits over 70%, and that the estimated value for a benefit structure and plan design for municipalities ranged between 30% and 38%. He also very eloquently and deliberately stated that not only was our retirement system antiquated, it was broken. And we've looked at these compensation studies, and if we were, and I'm not saying that we are, but if we were short-sighted enough to increase wages and salaries currently, as suggested and recommended by that current study, would that be overburdensome on our currently antiquated and broken retirement system?
Okay. The first thing I will say is that I vehemently disagree with the good doctor that our system is antiquated and broken. It's an actuarially sound system, and I have my actuary here that will give you as much data as you need to back that up. So the system itself is not broken. I think what the doctor was referring to is our benefit structure as a whole, and how perhaps there may be some provisions in our system that are a bit generous, more so than some of the peers in his study group. I did reach out and ask for more granular information on how he came about some of the data, and I have not yet received that information back, but...
Okay, so let me ask you another question.
Sure.
Based upon what you know today and the current changes that are focused around our city and our parish, you have no apprehension with regard to funding the retirement system decades from today?
No.
Okay. So let me ask you another question. If we did move to a tiered program where people had the option of electing a 401k or continuing with our current retirement system, how it's placed, does that inhibit the funding in any way if they're contributing to the 401k rather than contributing to the current program?
So it's not exactly a black and white answer. What I can say is that I can look at history and how other states and municipalities have fared once they introduced a second plan. In fact, our actuary here also worked for lasers and teachers here in this state, and one of those systems has a 401k style plan that they added a while back, so she can speak specifically to that.
Did it inhibit the funding?
They didn't
long-term?
close the original plan, so
Right.
if you don't
Because you
close
can't
the original
legally.
plan, it may limit the number of members that come into the system. Some may choose to go into the other plan, but no, it didn't. It wouldn't inhibit the funding.
Okay.
It would be a completely separate plan.
So I understand what separate plans look like.
Sure.
And thank you, please shut up. But anyway, so I understand what the separate plans look like. What I'm-
Respect me.
Well, quit speaking whenever I'm talking.
Respect.
That's respect. Learn some.
No, you learned some.
You do, sir. Anyway, so I understand what the separate plans look like. I'm very aware of what that is.
Okay.
But the funding comes from two different mechanisms, correct? It changes with regard to how the funding is taken from an employee or how that employee contributes, correct?
Right. So like I mentioned in the beginning, you have the contributions from both the employee and employer, and then you have your investment gains. That's how you fund the pension plan moving forward. So you may have a drop off in total contributions to the plan, but you'd also have decrease in number of members in the plan as well.
Right, okay. And so if we're looking at moving our plan forward, but we're also looking at raising compensation, and again, like we said over and over again, there's no way that we can force an employee out of one plan onto another, correct?
Correct.
But if we're moving organically and they're choosing the option to move onto a 401k rather than the current plan and system in
Councilwoman, you want
place.
to check your time?
Yes, please. To the current system that we have in place, like, for example, millennials, they would rather get paid more, and they would rather and care less about being here 20 years and getting the massive retirement benefits. If we're doing that, does that save us? What benefit does the city have moving towards? What are the positive outcomes of transitioning towards that piece?
Really, the only benefit I would see would be just the choice, the selection to new employees having a second option. I can't definitively say that it would be less expensive on the employer because right now our city parish employees don't pay into Social Security.
Right.
So as an employer, you would be paying that 6.2% into Social Security for those that chose that option. And right now, the normal cost, as I mentioned earlier, to fund our plan is 6.5%. So
you're saying it's a wash?
pretty much.
There are no, so.
Because you're still going to have that $700 million UAL unfunded liability there, regardless of however many new plans you decide to bring on.
Okay, so in that case and in those scenarios, what are your options for moving forward and trying to come up with a solution? Because like I said, it's not short-sighted. I know it's a long-term cohesive plan, but
Absolutely.
if all of those things aren't saving, and those are the recommendations that our consultant made that came before us, if none of those things, in your opinion, work, what works?
So I would go back to, again, we're in the middle of an experience study, and an experience study is essentially taking a microscope to your plan, taking a look at the provisions of your plan and the costs associated with it, and figuring out, sometimes you have to make some hard choices in terms of the accrual rate that you utilize in your plan, in terms of how much overtime is credited in a plan, how much time someone can sell and use for service credit in a plan. Those are all provisions of a plan, and there's dozens of them. So you take a look at them, and any one of those may only have an incremental change in cost of a plan, but when you make some changes to, half a dozen of those, it can be significant, especially over 20, 30 years.
And if there's an increase in compensation, parish-wide, does that overburden your retirement system at all? How do you move that? Is that incrementalized? How does that benefit, and how do you move forward with your retirement system and what we're paying out in retirement benefits? How do we keep up with that?
So typically, and I'll ask my actuary to come up. She may have a little more color on that, but so typically, you have actuarial assumptions based on a number of things, how long you're going to live, but part of that is also what salary expectations are going to be. So if you have salary increases that are above what your assumptions were, then typically that's going to be a cost to the system, right? So that's going to increase the liabilities to the system. It may only incrementally increase the normal costs for the benefits, but it'll definitely increase the liabilities that you have. So what you would have to do is go back and redo those assumptions and account for those salary increases.
Okay. I think your actuary came up to add. Do you want to add something to that, please?
Did I get that right, Shelley?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shelley Johnson, I'm the actuary for the system. I think your question was, how does salary increases impact the retirement
ma'am.
system?
Thank
Okay. It impacts it in several different ways, and James did a good job of explaining it. It will increase the cost of the accruing benefit, the normal cost, that's the cost of the accruing benefit today, but it also increases the unfunded accrued liability. because if salary increases are higher than we originally anticipated with past funding, and that UAL becomes an expense to the employer as well. And so even if you change benefits, that UAL still has to be paid, as James has already explained.
So how do we keep up with that accruing, the UAL, the larger number, the bigger number? How do we manage that?
There's several different ways that you can handle paying the UAL, and James and I have already started to speak about some of those things. The problem is that you can change benefits, and it does not change the fact that the UAL still has to be paid. You can extend the term of paying it, sort of like, you can think of the UAL sort of as like your mortgage on your house. And so if you can refinance it and extend the term that you're paying it, but then you're paying a lot more in interest. And so the question becomes, if you're wanting to cut costs, you really need to know the parameters. Where are you willing to bear the impacts of those decisions?
And I think that's my time.
Councilwoman, that's your time. Councilman Moat?
Councilwoman Rocca, if you have another question to ask, please.
Thank you, sir. So I think that's where I'm getting back, kind of circling all the way back around. What are the organic solutions for us to move forward where we don't have an extremely large impact on our employee population, but we move forward without overburdening our current UAL, our current retirement system? And how do we make that happen? And what does that look like? If it is the tiered options, if it is, if we're not creating any funding issues with tiering folks out and moving forward, is that the piece, or is that something that you are still working on based upon the study that he referenced earlier?
Yeah, so a large part of that is from the experience study that we're in the middle of. So if the data comes back and we have a 7-person board of trustees that governs the retirement system. So that'll be the choices that they'll be making when we study the results of the experience study.
In that study, or just in your experience, is there a possibility for someone, let's say, that's been with the city for 7 years, as a younger person, they care about more increase in pay rather than the long-term retirement benefits? Will there be an option for them to buy themselves out of the current plan to move into a 401k plan to transition their future and their pay structure if we were looking into those transitions? Or would they be stuck in the current system as we have it?
I do not have the answer to that question. I'd have to look at it legally because they would have to sever employment with an employer in our system to get a return of contributions, in which then they could
reinvest.
Typically when someone leaves, if they don't have at least 10 years, which is 10 years to vest, then they get a return of contributions, and they can typically roll that. If they go into a job that has a 401k, they can roll that over into another qualified plan.
So is it possible to incentivize them in any way? And I don't expect you to have these questions, but these are the questions.
Incentivize them, I would. Unlikely. Again, only because I say that because my biggest concern, what keeps me up, is a $700 million unfunded liability, and so I'm very wary about anything that would add to that number.
I understand that, but to answer that question, there are ways, and there are municipalities of our size and other public entities of our size that have transitioned and successfully moved people from these programs so they don't have an overburdened retirement system. So I think that we'd be very interested in seeing what it would look like to have someone move off of our plan into a privatized 401k type plan, to see if, or whatever plan that we could offer to keep our other plan moving and successfully moving forward, but also being able to support the large amount of retirees. Because whenever you look at our numbers, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have approximately 4,000 employees that work for the city of Baton Rouge and approximately 2,000 retirees that will be collecting.
We have about 3,500 in each bucket.
Okay, so that's changed significantly since the last time I looked at it. So we have 3,500 employees that are supporting 3,500 retirees currently.
Yeah, those roughly.
And that's going to be a pretty substantial impact on us, correct? That's where the 700 million UAL comes from?
The 700 million UAL comes from having, essentially not having your assets keep up with your liability, but this is over decades. I want to say the UAL was 170 million 20 years ago. So it's blown quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate all your answers. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. So my question is, I want to focus on the study that you're doing now. This is an internal in-house study?
It's done by our actuarial firm, yes, sir, internal.
Okay.
I mean, they're an outside firm.
Okay, so this is somewhat like that, someone that did the pay study. This is an outside firm that is doing this study here as far as what can and can't be done.
Correct.
Can you come up to speak on about the study? What are we to be expecting from this study? Is this study, now this one's done on a regular basis, but based on this situation and the employee payment study, I feel like there should be possibly some defined aspects of what we're looking for. And real quickly, if you could, what exactly in this study is this one doing? Is this just a regular study that's done every so often and says, okay, we need to kind of change up a little bit or so on and so forth? Or do you need direction to redo this study or restart this study to give us what we're looking for? And what I mean by what we're looking for, what I'm looking for, is when you report back to us the final study, I want options. I want to know what the options are, what it's going to cost us, who have you spoken with, and during this study, speaking with the employees, speaking with the different organizations about what they see, what they expect, and so on and so forth. That's the kind of external study that I would be to expect. We're looking to fundamentally change the structure. I don't think it's just a regular quarterly or however many year study is the right thing right now. I think there needs to be the study done of what options can we take, what will the employees tolerate, what options would they like to see, and communicate with them. Oh, and I understand this is something that can't be just done in a month or two, but that's what I would like to see. And then based on your communication with what they see and trends and everything else, then come back to us with several options. Okay, if we continue like we are, this is what it's going to cost, this is how it's going to be, and we just go forward. If you go with this option, this is what you can save, this many employees can opt out, this many can so on and so forth, change. And I don't know what all legally they can and can't do. Or third option, we just have to, this is what we've got to do, and if not, this is going to happen. So that's what I'm looking for in the final part of this study. Is that possible?
So to answer your question, Councilman, an experience study largely focuses on internally the system you have in place and the assumptions with that system.
That's what I see a problem with.
Well,
is we need
I'm
focus.
getting to your answer. So that's what an experience study does. What you're requesting in terms of looking at other options outside of this plan, creating new plans, or shutting down this plan for new employees and moving to a different plan, that's outside the scope of an experience study, so that would require a separate study be done.
Okay, is that something that we need to request? Is that something that you think we should do as a retirement person? Again, we have these numbers out here now about the pay study that people are going to start looking for. We know we have to do that, but we also know that on the other side, we have to have options to be able to get to that point. And that's, if we need to look into doing that, I would be more than happy to see what funding we could find to possibly do that. But I don't want to go through this whole study if it's not going to get what we as a council are looking for overall. I know this one has to be done. It's a normal procedure that y'all do every so often. But if we need to look at going forward with a different one from the outside looking in or other options, then let's get started on that. And is that something you think we need to do?
Yeah, to get to the answers that you're asking in terms of options outside of the existing plan, yeah, that will require a separate study. And that's a study that if the retirement system is going to fund that study, that's a study that my board would have to vote on and approve to fund.
Okay. That's where I'd like to see the ball rolling. Thank you.
Councilman Hudson.
So I want to explore the question on the UAL a little further. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it as eloquently as Councilman Rocca did, but let me ask it this way. What is our current strategy for reducing the UAL, and is it working? So what I mean by that is over the past 10 years, have we trended down? Have we trended up? What's our strategy, and how is that working currently?
Sure. So we have, right now we have an amortization schedule in place. Right now it's 21 years. And every year that goes by, a year drops off that amortization schedule, and we look at it each year. So it's recalculated. So right now it's a 21-year amortization in which after year 15, it transitions to a rolling 15-year amortization schedule. I can bring Shelley up to talk a little bit more about the specifics of the different types of amortization projections on how systems pay down UALs, but there's an infinite number of them, but that's the one that we have, and it's been in place at least 7-8 years.
So I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So over the next 6 years, we'll trend that number down and then amortize it on a rolling 15 after that? I'm seeing shaking head,
That's
but if you would for the record. Okay, thank you. So that's good. It sounds like our strategy, we have a strategy in place, and it is working for addressing that. That's good. I want to explore one of the questions that Councilman Hurst asked as well, and it's a very important question. I liked your answer, and that was that essentially nothing happens to existing retirees, existing employees, if we were to make changes. While that is an extreme concern of mine, we got to protect our employees, we got to protect our retirees. My other thing that I think we have to protect is the city parish general fund. It's something we've all talked a great deal about up here. If we make changes that negatively impact our ability to execute that UAL strategy, where does the money come from to make up the difference? Does it come from the general fund, or where would you look for to still be able to pay down that UAL?
Let's say that the UAL continue to grow, and maybe there are some situations that happen with the plan and the assumptions are off a bit and that UAL grows. What we would likely do is come back and change the amortization on that payment to make it so that at least the employer costs are manageable, right? I don't know if that answers your question, but we don't use general fund dollars to fund the
that's my main
retirement system.
question, is that you wouldn't first look for additional city parish dollars to.
So every employer in our system, which there are 9, and the city parish is the largest, BREC is the second largest. Every employer, a portion of that 700 million UAL is attributable to them. And so it's their portion of that debt.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
I understand. All right, so moving off of retirement for just a minute, I know we've just recently brought on Hub. I recall from when we hired the previous contractor, FBAC, And I'm probably going to get this number a little wrong or a little fuzzy. But one of the things they brought to our attention that I think for our retiree healthcare liability was 45% of payroll. What are we doing with that figure? Have we fixed that trend? How are we looking there? I should say unfunded retiree healthcare liability.
Right. I don't have any. Angie, do you have any? I'm sorry, what was the question?
So I know we just brought on Hub, and when we looked at the last contractor to do our retiree our healthcare issues, they brought to our attention that retiree healthcare liability was something like 45% of payroll, or unfunded retiree healthcare liability was something like 45% of payroll. How are we doing on those numbers? Are we reducing those costs?
So we have created or instituted the Medicare Advantage, which is helping us because that removes the liability of all their claims into the Medicare Advantage, which is a separate policy outside of the city parish, having the burden of those claims. Yearly, they have transitioned about 200 retirees that fall into that criteria annually. So we have seen some savings in that area, but I don't think we want to aggressively approach it in a little more aggressive manner, which we're having open enrollment. We're reaching out to those individuals that qualify. You know, you have to be 65 and older in order to go in that program. So we have made some strides. They are going to present us another strategic plan to help us even make further decisions on reducing that liability.
So I want to kind of benchmark ourselves, but as a function of payroll or as a function of the budget, have we gone in the right direction or the wrong direction?
It fluctuates because claims, it's based on the claims of those retirees. So claims fluctuate. It has gone up and down. This year it's 18.1% of payroll is what we're using to fund.
Well, that's a lot better.
OPEB.
Okay, thank you. I see Mr. Daniels in the back. I couldn't let you slide. I want to pose Councilman Moak's question to you. I'm just curious on your thoughts. I think you're the chair. Are you still the chair? All right. Councilman Moak asked a question about the retirement board's willingness to explore other retirement plan options. I'm not asking you to commit to anything. I just want to know from your perspective, is there a willingness out there to explore options with us?
Sure. Jay Daniels. I'm the chair of the CPRS board. The answer is yes. I think this conversation is somewhat premature. You know, I think it needs to be put in context of all the other benefits. I think we've done so in the past. This very compressed time over the past maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But I think if we really want to study the issue, I think it deserves a little bit more attention. There's collaboration that has to occur with the different employers. I think we have 7 or 8, 9 different employers. We have an HR department that has benefits to be evaluated. And it's something to have this discussion hashed out and deliberated in this body at this time without the proper study, whether that's a plan study, whether that's experience study, I think is a little bit premature. And we want to be able to give you the proper information where we can all come back and have some recommendations to you that just may include, you know, possible amendment of the benefits package. But right now, I think it's a little bit premature. But that's something that the board is aware of. We're going to have some discussion in our forthcoming board meetings. We look forward to working with our different partners that we have assembled to bring some recommendations back to the council.
I think you're right and insightful as always, and that's why you're the chair.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Councilman Dunn Jr.
Thank you. I also think that's the right step as well, specifically having some input from the employees. And some of us have gotten questions and gotten concerns from employees, and you're seeing some of that come from us up here, but it would be good for them to give firsthand information and direction on what they'd like to see, and then come back to us with also other stakeholders involved. Mr. Matt, can you come up, please? When Mr. Campbell was here and gave his report, I think all of us were very impressed with, you know, the way in which he carried himself, the information he brought. And, you know, as much as impressed we was with his presentation, some of the information and data was shocking as well. I would say your presentation has been impressive, equally as impressive, but what had kind of caused me a pause, you had some differences of opinions on some of the things he presented before us, specifically talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, his concerns about how generous the benefits was or is. And you even talked about, you know, inquiring from him and his team, how did they arrive at some of those numbers? And I know that, you know, depending on who's looking at what and what approach they take, you know, you can arrive to a different destination. So as you get that information from him and you guys kind of reconcile, you know, your differences, could you get that information back to us so we can get a understanding on, you know, where you guys wasn't on the same page or where the differences was, and did you come to some sort of compromise?
Sure, I absolutely. What I will say is I do have the benefits section of the study, and my understanding it was close to 600 pages. Maybe 20 pages of it is based on benefits. The rest of it is just looking at compensation. And there is one page on retirement, and I'll just read what his recommendation is, quote unquote, the city compares favorably with respondent retirement plans. No changes are recommended. That's his words, not mine.
Okay. Well, as you guys, as I said, dig through all of that, and I think kind of Jay mentioned it, you know, we won't resolve everything right now because y'all got a lot of more people to talk to and a lot more input, and the two of you guys got to talk. But
absolutely,
I'm just asking that once you guys flush all that out, come back to us and kind of give us some input on, you know, where things landed at, because there seem to be some differences in opinions on approach and style and things of that nature. Also, one of the major concerns that I've heard, and I think that alarm most people, is when you talk about making a change to the current plan, or you look at the tiered approach, which you know did a good job describing. The layperson like myself or others who don't do this for a living may think that, you know, you're limiting the amount or the pool of people going into it, so it's going to limit the amount of resources made available to those who are dependent on it. Now, you've said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you think the plan changes, the investment schedule, contribution levels, and eligibility requirements, making adjustments to those things, that you don't think it would be in jeopardy of funding those who are already vested. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
Okay. And you also referenced another municipality, I forget who you said, that had made a similar change where they added a tiered approach, and it didn't have any negative effect to them. If you could tell me, how long have they been doing this? How long ago did they make the change? You know, how many years, sample size, research do they have?
I'll let Shelley answer that because she's the actuary for that other plan.
Okay.
So I believe the system James is referring to is the State Employees Retirement System. It's called LASERS, Louisiana State Employees Retirement System. They studied, well, let me back up a little bit because I think we're talking about two different things here. They do have different tiers, and what that means is that occasionally they will change the benefits so that the new members coming in will have a different plan of benefits. So it doesn't affect anyone else's benefits other than the new member coming in. So they have done that, which we have done too. And in fact, I've added to the valuation report what the last tier of benefits, how that has impacted funding and the UAL. What I want to make sure that to comment on though is LASERS did not put in place a change of plan that brought in any element of a defined contribution plan. They studied that. It's actually gone to the legislature twice, and both times it has not passed. Once it was a representative or a senator that brought the plan. The next time the system actually brought the plan. Both times it did not pass. And I don't want to waste your time going into all the reasons for it now, but I could comment on all the many reasons why that can present some problems.
You don't have to necessarily do it now, but again, Mr. Mack, I'd like to look at some data from our plan where the change was made in 15 and the Lasers plan, just to kind of, because I think most people say, okay, it's easy for you to say no, there'll be no long-term effect. But show me 5, 10, 15, 20 years of another plan or our plan where it didn't affect the current people that were invested. So can you get us some data just to kind of show us that and model that?
Yes, we can certainly take a look at the cost savings from the tier of the plan before 2015 and then what it looks like for members post 2015. If I'm not mistaken, we are only about halfway through, like half of our current members are in the new tier. So we're only about halfway through that plan, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Yeah, from 10 years ago. Okay. So it obviously these things take some time, but I can certainly present the data so far on that.
Gotcha. Thank you. 2 more questions. A deeper dive into the issue has been referenced, and multiple types of studies. Obviously, City Parish Commission one, led and pushed by Councilman Hurst and HR. If we took a deeper dive, what would the cost be to those additional plans? Additional studies that was referenced, and then who would pay for it? Would you guys, CPRS, pay for it, or would you be looking for us to pay for it?
That would be up to my board. I can't really.
Mr. Daniels? Come on down. Do you think the board, and I know you're only one.
I'm just the chair, and I serve with 6 other dedicated individuals.
Do you think the board has an appetite to fund that, or would you?
We can definitely have that discussion. Okay. At this point, I can't commit to any obligations, but we can definitely bring that up in our next discussion.
Yeah, discuss it and get back to us. And my final question, what's your name again, ma'am? I know that Shelley?
Shelley, yes.
The strength of the $1.3 billion system, can you speak to it?
Yes, sir, I can. So the system is actuarially sound, and when I hear someone saying that it's antiquated and broken, I need to understand. Please define that for me, because the way an actuary looks at a plan. So let me describe quickly what an actuarially funded plan means. What it simply means is that the plan of benefits are funded. The benefits are funded over the member's career. And so by the time a member retires, their benefits should be fully funded, and it's not at all dependent upon new members coming in. That would be like a pay-as-you-go plan for Social Security. An actuarially funded plan is not a pay-as-you-go plan. So if the plan were cut off today, and let's say we went to 0 benefits, the retirees would still receive their benefits, and active members, as they retired, would still receive their benefits. The only way that would come at risk is if the UAL wasn't paid. So the UAL needs to be paid to fund the benefits that have already been accrued. Because there is a reasonable plan in place to pay down that UAL, that's why the system's an actuarially sound plan. The other thing that makes it actuarially sound is, are we using appropriate benefits to fund the plan? And are we using appropriate methods, actuarial methods and amortization methods, which I won't go into, but just accept those on the surface for now. I can tell you that all of those things are actuarially sound. And the board, we've been the actuary for the plan since 2017, and continuously the board has come to me and asked, what can we do to make the plan more actuarially sound? And they have taken those steps. Anything that we have recommended, they have adopted. And so at this point, using the example of if we were to go down to 0 benefits, what would we be left with? It boils down to the UAL and how does the employer want to fund the UAL? And I think that's really a discussion that needs to be had.
Thank you for your information. Thank you for your work on this. Same to you, Mr. Mack. Thank you, Mr. Daniels, Ms. Pearson, and everybody involved.
Councilman Hurst.
Hey, I want to kind of bring this home for everybody, that it's not just about our current employees, it's about our future employees as well, and our inability to hire people in these departments. About the 250 vacancies in DPW, about the 150 vacancies in BRPD when we ask for public safety and faster response time, and why we can't have neighborhood patrols because there's not enough people to do both patrol and respond to emergencies. So this is about how do we bring people on board? How do we attract and retain talent, and not just attract, drive talent to training and then let somebody else hire them and remove them? This is about the one electrician we have in all of East Baton Rouge Parish. This is about the one carpenter we have in all of East Baton Rouge Parish. This is about the $8 an hour we're paying DPW workers. They'll retire overtime just to make ends meet. So this is much bigger than just retaining our current talent. It's when the baby boomers retire, how do we attract new talent and make sure that they stay here, and this doesn't become a training ground for other businesses in our parish and our country. And so while we focus on how does it affect us today in terms of funding, in terms of retirement, I'm not just thinking about today, I'm thinking about tomorrow as well. And how do we make sure the city parish still is able to move forward? Because when I get a call about DPW and trash getting picked up, or if I get a call about some issues that are happening in the road with a pothole, and then I call that director and he says I got to put it on my schedule 2 months out because I don't have the manpower, or I can't work events in the community because I don't have the manpower, then what do I do at that point? What do we do at that point? We're elected to serve the parish, not a department, but to serve the parish in its entirety, and to make sure that each vacancy is filled, to make sure that they have both a livable wage and a great retirement at the same time. And this study is to be able to do that, to make sure that people live well, retire well, but after they retire, to make sure that we can backfill those positions so that city parish can continue and be productive as possible and serve the citizens of East Baton Rouge Parish the way that they intend to be served. And even when we cut back, guess what people want us to do more with less? Well, guess what, y'all? We're already at the corner of the meat that's on the bone right now, and we have nothing left to give you guys. So this process, so that we can be of a better service to you, to the entire parish, not just the city of Baton Rouge, but to all 5 cities that are including East Baton Rouge Parish. Thank you so much.
All right, thank y'all. We're going to go to item 152, emergency item. Amending and reenacting ordinance 19376 adopted October 9th, 2024, which established voting precincts within wards 1, 2, and 3 in East Baton Rouge Parish and designating polling places so as to change the following polling location. Ward 1, Precinct 11, Zion City School, Cadillac Street Park Center. Ward 1, Precinct 84, Zion City School to Cadillac Street Park Center. Did I say them all? Did I skip one? Yes. By the registrar of voters. In accordance with ordinance 16442, this item must be declared an emergency by 2/3 vote of the Metropolitan Council. Do we have a motion to declare an emergency? Motion by Councilman Hurst, second by Councilman Moak. Any opposed? It's declared an emergency. Public hearing on the item. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to council. Do we have a motion to approve the item? Motion by Councilman Hurst, second by Councilman Dunn Jr. Any opposed? Motion carries. Councilwoman Amorosa. Thank you. We have announcements. We have announcements by Councilwoman Darazan.
Okay. Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We have an announcement. We having a wellness festival given by one of our local churches here in conjunction with the Baton Rouge General. It will be held on November the 2nd, 2024 from 10 to 2 at the Baton Rouge General Mid-City. We're going to have vendors, booths, all kinds of healthcare resources there, so we're inviting the community to come out. Also at the MLK Center, 40,000 Gus Young Avenue, We're having October the 31st, trunk or treat from 6 to 8. Please join us for games, scary fun, and frightening food. Costume contests for ages 0 to 13. It's proudly sponsored by Councilwoman Pat Derazan and the staff. Please come out and have fun with us. Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all all for your continued service. Serve your families, your communities, but first and foremost, serve God. God bless.
Lawrence with a capital